What's up, guys? It's the Essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
And you guys are tuned into Caught
in Conversation.
Shaka-laka-laka. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 157 of Caught in Conversation. We'll wrestle for tacos. I am your host, the Essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
She's back. At long last, she's back. It's only been 1 week, but she's back.
By God.
By God, that's gotta be Nova
Lee.
What have you been doing in this week off, Nova? Anything new?
Oh, really?
You didn't do anything exciting since the last episode came out?
I don't know. What do you want to touch on?
Well, actually, that's a lie, because technically this episode came out on the Sunday. But that was the cue for me to say that you made your ring announcing debut for ICW. It's a separate company.
This is true.
You did colour commentary with me, which you gotten a lot of good feedback from, as touched here in this conversation. But we are talking to the one and only Apex Anderson. For a rib, to pull the curtain back a little bit, I was genuinely considering calling this episode "Fuck Apex Anderson," like F *****. Like just to have a rib with him, because I know that he'd see the funny side of it. But no, it was a really good chat here talking to Apex Anderson, go Birds, all of that. Obviously, I'm still a diehard Rams fan, but I did wear Kelly Green for the Super Bowl in honor of my wife. But no, this is a fun conversation. We talked about wrestling. We talked about obviously the Philadelphia Eagles, and basically just ranted about stuff and things that we all enjoy, and it was a fun time. I really enjoyed this, going through the journey, the going down, finding out what Apex's angle is in life. How about that?
Yeah.
But I can't reach the soundboard right now. But I thought for a rib you were going to press the womp womp womp. It doesn't have as much of a... Nova's like a child right now, just pushing fucking buttons because they're all different. I love the way they light up in the dark here in the studio. That's great. Nova Lee, would you like to give us the song and match of the week? Explain why we've chosen this song and match of the week, and then introduce our guest, because I don't want to keep this too long of an episode, because we've got a handful of things that we need to plug in the outro.
Alrighty. So your song of the week for episode 157 is Go Birds by Holden Barter, the acoustic version specifically. And your match of the week is DX versus the McMahons at SummerSlam 2006. And
why did you specifically choose this song, Miss Nova Lee?
I picked this song as a bit of a rib to Mrs. Apex. So essentially, the guy is talking about how he converted his girlfriend that goes for the Dallas Cowboys to the Eagles. And yeah. So I did it as a rib.
And why do we pick this match, Nova Lee?
Because we mentioned it in the episode.
It was one of Apex's favourite matches as a fan to watch, and we just thought, hey,
that's a banger of a match. It's a hidden gem, you know.
It literally, at this point in time, it'll be 19 years this year since it happened. Sweet mother of fuck, 20 years next year since it happened. I have just had a midlife crisis on the live on the podcast. But no, it really, in the grand scheme of things, we've had a lot of SummerSlam matches in general over the years as matches of the week. This is only the second SummerSlam 06 match. The other one was Foley versus Flair in their I Quit match, funnily enough, which we talked about, Rob and Apex, and the I Quit match they had just this past weekend. It'll be last week by the time this episode drops on all the public platforms on the Sunday. Of course, if you're a Patreon subscriber, you'll get early access, which we'll plug in the outro. But yeah, it really is a hidden gem of a matchup, and as Apex talked about, the lead up to this, there was lots of comedy and everything like that, but there was still a very serious overtone in general, and the match was really, really well done, and obviously, Jim Ross and JR as commentators, so, they really amped up the story. Obviously, as a play-by-play announcer, I'm a complete expert at that stuff. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But it really is I might even go watch that match at some point in the next few days now, just because it's fresh in my mind. Because it's on Netflix. Why not? It's there. But yeah, no, that's why we've chosen this song. That's why we've chosen this match. But Nova Lee,
song's also a banger. That's another reason why I picked it. And it's country music, so it's honestly, it's good.
Apex is a bit of a Luke Combs fan and doesn't like a bit of the yee to the ha. I also partake in the yeeing of the haring quite a lot. This podcast, if I had my way, would just be a full-blown fucking honky-tonk. But that's neither here nor there. Nova Lee, would you like to introduce our guest? We'll get into this conversation, and then by the power of time travel, we'll be in the future and we'll do the outro.
Alrighty, let's get an applause. From Central Queensland, he is Apex Anderson!
Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with my lovely co-host, Nova Lee. She's back after taking a hiatus due to health for the previous episode with E10, but we're here. This is a very strange one because this guest admitted to me before we even went live that he doesn't like me and I still don't like him, but there's this weird level of respect between the two of us that's kind of grown. We're here with Apex Anderson. He's in my bad books right now with Jack because of what he's done with Jackson Thornhill, and to be honest, we're probably going to touch on that, but how are you doing on this fine Wednesday evening as we record this, Apex?
Mate, thank you for having me. First-time listener, long-time ignorer, but I'm glad to be here. No, look, thanks for having me. I guess we can kind of get along for a little bit. I do have to give you some credit. We may not have seen eye to eye, but I do know that every time I go back and listen to the matches that we have, you do give me a lot of credit where credit is due, and I appreciate that. So that's where my respect is for you. But this rogue stuff, man, we're going to have to talk about this rogue stuff because, I was talking to Jackson, and him and I seem to have a lot of stuff in common, but, this rogue thing, this pride of rogue, the honesty of rogue. I don't know how honest you guys are, but we'll get to it more in the depth. But I'm glad to be here to have a bit of a chat with you and kind of maybe iron some things out.
And I am glad that I'm sure we'll talk about it during this conversation. I'm lucky in the fact that my wife has a bit of middle ground with you, in the fact that you are both Philadelphia Eagles supporters, which I did put over on commentary at Extreme Capital Wrestling a couple of weeks ago, and obviously your new stuff is inspired by that, which I'm sure Nova has questions about that as well, but I'm just here to have a conversation, and I like to think that at this point we can have a conversation. And I know that you have sussed out a few of these shows because you've sent me a little bit of hate mail here and there from some of the things I've said, but neither here nor there. We always ask the same question. To break the ice, Apex Anderson, what was your earliest professional wrestling memory?
Very, very easy one. My very earliest professional wrestling memory is the Montreal Screwjob. It just so happened to be the second match that I ever watched. And I'll never ever forget it because it was the first time I saw a grown man spit on his boss on national television, before obviously leaving and walking out with the belt in hand. So look, honestly, that was what really started my inspiration to want to wrestle, because just watching people do crazy things that mum and dad didn't really care that I watched, and it was just a downhill spiral from there. After that, obviously falling into the love of the Generation X, and just seeing what creativity they could get up to on national television that you couldn't get away with these days, but back then was just pure comedy, and it was just peak professional wrestling performance at its time. And just obviously with the generation difference of then versus now, look, if I could go back and relive it all over again, I'd want to do it the exact same way. But yes, earliest memory, by far the Montreal Screwjob.
That's it's a controversial thing to see for the first time, but two, that's one hell of a core memory to have stick out for Series 90. Yeah. That whole event, honestly, is a solid event, but I was literally just today, as we recorded this, all the reels and stuff on either Facebook or Instagram, whichever one it was, from Undertaker's podcast popped up. And they were literally discussing that. It was just the clip that came up, and it was like, it's crazy to think, both Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels had such well-documented careers and just superb, stellar matchups and feuds. And yet, for some reason, that's what people always come back to with both of them. And they're like, especially like with all due respect to Bret, especially from Shawn's aspect, because, Bret obviously would go on to be injured not long after that and retire, but Shawn would wrestle for, a decade plus after that. And it's just like, how of all of these things and all these years, they're like, man, that must be frustrating for him that's probably the number one thing that that people remember. But case in point right there, that's what sticks out to Apex Anderson. That's pretty crazy. And as you said, like so we're actually, this is a cheap plug without going on too much of a tangent. Nova has never seen the Bret Hart documentary, the Wrestling with Shadows documentary. It is actually on Tubi. So we're going to be doing a watch-along of that at some point in the next couple of months. And they go into that where, like, he spits on Bret and then Bret spits on Vince, and then, you know, you hear the argument in the other room and he gives him the black eye, etc., etc. Like, that's a fucking crazy thing to wow, that's just blown my mind. Because, like, I know we're of the same generation, but most people are kind of like, you know, Stone Cold sticks out or Taker sticks out, or maybe it's Bret sticks out, but it's Bret versus Owen. But for that to be, like, the first thing you see is Bret Hart spitting on Vince McMahon and Earl Hebner calling for that is nuts. That is amazing.
Yeah,
what's your take on that, Apex Anderson? I don't want to get too controversial here, but to me, I've always been very indifferent with Bret. I know I've got a lot of friends that are very big fans of Bret Hart. Yeah. I've always really been in that Bret screws Bret kind of mindset. And I'm not saying that Shawn and Vince were innocent, because they absolutely weren't. But even Taker, when he was talking about it, they were kind of just like, do you think Bret would have showed up on TV the following week like he promised if they didn't do it that way? And it's like, probably, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, look, it's one of those ones where it's kind of like exploring the Bermuda Triangle or Titanic or things like that. It's those unsolved mysteries that we just keep asking the questions of. And I've been digging deep into this one because I always still wanted to find out what the real answer was behind it. And there's still no, like, valid real answer as to what all went down. All I know is that Triple H and Shawn Michaels have denied the fact that they had any involvement in the Montreal Screwjob. Vince McMahon has obviously brought Triple H and Shawn Michaels into a meeting prior to the match. Then you've got Bret, who obviously was looking at going to a different promotion, but was going to keep the belt until the end of the run, advocate the belt, go to a different promotion, and Vince didn't want that to happen. He wanted the belt back in safe hands before Bret went anywhere. And it just, I guess, for me, there's two sides to the story, and the one that I'm seeing is that Bret wanted to go out as a hero, but he wanted to do it his way, and he wasn't sticking to the booking. And Vince definitely wanted to keep the belt safe in the show without obviously stepping on toes like WCW at the time and Nitro and stuff like that was happening and causing an absolute rift between the two. So I see where both parties are coming from. I believe that Bret screwed Bret. I think if he had to just listen to the status quo, I think he would have been fine. But I think the sheer fact that Vince had to do some undercarded shit to make sure it all happened afterwards, I think they both screwed each other over, but it told one hell of a story.
Not to pull the curtain back too much on, you know, the business of professional wrestling, but a podcast is a podcast. But the fact that we're one question in here and Apex Anderson and I have already just agreed on something is a little bit strange. Maybe we're more alike than we thought. But I think, like, if you look back to a year before that or year and a bit before that, Medusa going out on TV, dropping the WWF Women's Championship into the trash can, like, you know, you don't want, in Vince's mind, is Bret going to do the same thing? Like, he doesn't know that for sure. Like, and
that's the thing. You've got to worry about potentially Bret taking the belt to WCW, using it as a pipe promo to say, well, screw the WWF, I'm off, throws the belt in the bin. So, yeah, I can see where Vince's head's sitting. And genuine concern where it lies. Like, you don't want to be shitting on another promotion while you're trying to get yours up and running, but also, too, we knew about the amnesty between the two promotions and how heavy they were going at each other. I think at one stage there was a promotion, on, I think it was Nitro, they shot on WWF because they're like, oh, sorry to cut you off, but if you hadn't read the news, it's the same shit this week and it's the same shit next week. And, you know, we got a better promotion here, so if you want to tune into us, watch us, we got a better title belt run right now. And it's like, wow, you guys are happy to just shit on another promotion in a different area. And I can see, again, why Vince would want to keep the belt in case that was to happen.
Yeah, well, not to go on too much of a rant here, because this is Apex's story, but because it's his first core memory, like, how many weeks in a row were they, because WWF's shows were taped as opposed to WCW, which was live every week. They were straight up, as you said, they were literally giving away the results for Raw. And then obviously the Mick Foley thing happened and it backfired on them, and the rest is history. But from what point, how old were you, Apex, around the time that you discovered the Montreal Screwjob?
I think I was about 7.
So from how long from then did it take you to discover independent professional wrestling, or just wrestling outside of WWE or WCW?
So it wasn't too long after that. I think I was 11 when I discovered the likes of TNA.
Yep.
And then that's when I started to see the likes of Suicide and a young AJ Styles. This was well before Aces of Spades and stuff like that. Like this was a very, very young, very green AJ Styles, and then obviously Kurt Angle making an appearance, and the occasional like pop in and out of other superstars. But I think I was probably 11 when I discovered other promotions apart from the WWE, and it kind of got me excited to see that there was more than just that wrestling. It wasn't until I was about 15, 16 that I realised that independent wrestling existed in Australia. I knew that there was independent wrestling in America, but at that point I was looking at places like backyard wrestling where people were fighting each other on trampolines and stuff. And that's when I kind of just spiraled from backyard wrestling to indie wrestling, seeing the indie wrestling down under shows, and then obviously falling upon some of the promotions in Australia and actually seeing what the promotions are in Australia and how long they've been around for. And then that's when I was like, this is cool. I can't believe I've got wrestling in my own backyard.
And what was the deciding factor that made you take that leap into the business? And when did you decide that you wanted to do it? Was there a certain match or moment when watching that kind of made you go, oh man, like I want to be a wrestler? Or
yeah, man. So I was playing football at the time for a local sports club, and we'd had a final series on, and we'd finished the show, and we finished the match, and at the end of the game, there was a ring set up inside our kind of like leagues club area, and I was like, "Oh, boys, we get a beer and we'll kick back and we'll watch the boxing." And then all these guys came out in these just ridiculously amazing outfits, and I was like, "This is not boxing. This is exactly up my alley." And I saw what they were doing and just the way they were working the crowd. I'm like, this is fantastic. So I think about 3 weeks later, a come and try day opened up, and I went out and tried out, and they said, you got potential, you got a lot of work, but you got potential. So I ended up retiring from football and then took up professional wrestling back in 2017, 2018, I believe.
So you I know because on your thing it says you debuted in 2020. So you were training for about a year and a half, 2 years before you finally debuted officially.
Yeah. So I trained for a couple of years before I debuted, but I was also working as a referee at the time, and that was still great because it was an opportunity to still be engaged in the show and help out. And it was kind of last minute, kind of falling into my lap because they said, "Look, we don't have a referee for this weekend show. Is there anybody who's willing to do it from the rookies?" And I was like, well, shit, if that gives me an opportunity to get in the ring early, yeah, I'll go. So I was a referee for quite some time, and that gave me a bit more ring awareness to understand like the ins and outs and what we have to do inside the ring. And after that I got a call up to do a debut up north, and rest is history.
And I think before we go to the next part of the question, this is where you and I are probably going to agree again, so that's fucking scary, but I think for me, starting as a referee is probably the best thing that anyone can do. Like, I know that there's lots of people and they come in and they're bright-eyed and they're bushy-tailed and they just want to wrestle and they want to do this, this, and this. But honestly, like, to me, refereeing is the most important part of the job. And at this point, and I've said it on this show publicly, I've said it on my Twitch streams, I've said it to anyone that asks, every time always asking me, do I want to get back in the ring, this, that, whatever. Obviously, I want to get back in the ring, but at this point, I just want to be able to referee again because there's just something special that if you take that position and you embrace that position, you can unlock a whole world of opportunities. And we always need more referees. Even Nova's saying, man, once I get this health stuff sorted, maybe I'll referee. Like, so many people shit on just being a referee because they want to be a wrestler, and I just cannot stress how much being a referee helped me as a wrestler with my ring awareness and just general nerves and everything else. Like, we need more referees. If you're a person wanting to get into this business, be a fucking referee.
Absolutely. Yeah. I surprisingly agree with you there. Look, I'm not going to lie. I was one person to knock back the idea of being a permanent referee for all my days. I wanted to be a wrestler, but you got to bite your time. You got to just get through, and you got to do what you got to do for your promotion or your friends, family. You've just got to, I guess, like you said, embrace it and take in all the knowledge you can. And being a referee is probably the front row ticket to taking in all the knowledge, because you get to see the matches firsthand. You only have to do a little bit. If they're really good at their matches, you don't even have to be there until the pinfall. So take that time to really study. And that was something I was doing. At one stage, I was asking promotions up north in Townsville, can I come and referee a match? And I'd drive up with the wrestlers and we'd have a great old talk about match strategy and psychology. And then I'd get to the match itself, and there was some big boppers that I was refereeing. And there was an opportunity there for just me to sit back and kind of, one, establish my own character and find out what I want to do with myself, but two, understand their ring positioning, how they work safely, what their kind of cues are, things like that. Like, you just take so much in from being a referee, because you get to, not only one, do you get to see everything firsthand and take it all in, but two, you can still establish yourself as a character as a referee. Like, I remember when I was a ref, I had my own personality. I had my own merchandise as a referee, which is sometimes uncanny.
That's unheard of, really.
Exactly right. And people were wearing my merchandise as a ref, and it was cool. Like, I had pretty cool merchandise to have there. And there was, like, I remember very, very clearly, there was one match we had where it was a title match handover, and the original referee that was in the match, he got misted, he got green misted, and he rolled out, and I'd been ejected as the referee for the night because of my poor performance or whatever. And all I remember is running through the curtains at top speed and sliding into the ring like Edge would do, and the crowd was going apeshit. Like, if you can do that as a referee, you got to be doing something right.
Well, like, think about iconic WrestleMania moments, right? One of the most iconic moments, WrestleMania 24. They got that ridiculous 100-fucking-yard ramp, and there's, like, the referee's down. Taker hits the tombstone on Edge, and here's Charles Robinson sprinting as hard as he can down this 100-yard fucking ramp, slides in. 1, 2, kick out. Oh, if only the ramp was just a little bit shorter. If only the ramp was shorter. And then, like, ref Charles Robinson gave it his all, but just the two. Like, that is a fucking iconic moment, just seeing Lil Nate just sprint on down there. But before Nova asks her question, I'll move on to my next question. I know you, just like myself, bit of history up there, up north, and you've kind of just took it upon yourself to leave because wrestling happens.
Wrestling happens.
But what kind of, how did you land on the ACT, and how did ICW Australia come to be the new home for you, man?
So I originally had my own podcast, and we talked about the weird and the wacky and the wonderful of NFL, and obviously because I was playing gridiron myself up north, the podcast was called the End Zone Podcast. Now, it's not a cheap plug because we've obviously shut it down because wrestling happens. But we were having a conversation one night, and we were just getting real candid about some questions that we were talking. It was a hard-hitting podcast. It was a really good stream one, and we were just talking about mental health and, like, the effects and side effects of mental health and things that can affect us. And we had a real candid conversation, and one of the questions was, if you could go back to professional wrestling, would you? And I said I wouldn't even give it a second thought. I'd be there in a heartbeat. And it just so happens that Benny Whiplash's partner was listening to the podcast, and she reached out and said, I want to introduce you to my partner, Benny Whiplash. He actually wrestles. He might be able to talk to you about what it's like to not be wrestling anymore as well, because he's kind of given it up too. And so we ended up getting in touch, and he heard my story and I heard his story, and we were both inspired to want to come back. And he said, look, I might have a spot for you down here in ICW. I can't promise you anything, but it could lead to something, or it could fizzle out and just be a one-hit wonder. And I said, well, it's got to be better than not knowing when your last wrestling match is. So even if I go down and put one on, and realise that could be my last match ever, I'll go out and give it the best damn match I've ever got. And even if I'm a one-hit wonder and I'm not welcome back ever again, well, at least I can say I did it on my terms and go out with a bang. So Benny reached out to ICW management and said, look, this is what I've got. I've got a guy up who wants to come down and try out, and they said, well, we'll give him a match and we'll put him up against one of our prodigies and we'll see how we go. And we tore the bloody house down. It was probably one of my coolest matches I've had. Now, I've had a couple of cool matches, but this was up there. Just the fact the crowd was so receptive to me and everybody was so warm and welcoming, it just felt like time hadn't passed, and it was just an ability to fall into something I love again. And after the show, the management tried to pay me for the match, and I said, no, you've given me an opportunity to do something I love one more time. I'm not going to take money for this. And he said, well, you're welcome to come back anytime. And then here we are now.
And you now, and I myself will admit that the shenanigans of how that match ended didn't sit well with me. It still doesn't sit well with me. But now former ICW Australian champion, of course, Jackson had his own little antics with that this past weekend because Zach Stryker was unable to compete. But that's another story. But I really did up until the end where Rob kind of, and even I said straight up on commentary, I didn't like the way that, it was kind of funny that he pulled one over on you to begin with. But as the match went, it just basically became a handicap match, and even Zach Stryker didn't like that. But former ICW heavyweight champion, or ICW Australian heavyweight champion, I should say, what are words. But that's a thing that you had in only the handful of matches you've had, and now, looking on to the tag team championships, possibly with Manny Whiplash, and obviously ECW just had tag team. You were in that match for the inaugural tag team championships, which was not known to even you guys before Miss Ruby July came out there and seemingly is now taking you and Benny under their wing, which is, that's not my business. We'll talk about that at a later date. But it's a very storied history in ICW in just year, 2 years now coming up. So year and a half, I think. What is math? But you've done a lot in the last year and a bit, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, look, honestly, I think in all things, I'm just grateful to be given another opportunity to do this and do it right this time, and to be able to leave an impression with everybody to obviously earn the respect and earn the ability to be welcomed back to not just ICW but ECW as well, and being able to have a good respect with everybody where I can come down and it's laughs and handshakes and hugs and regardless of the outcome of the matches, we can still shake hands at the end of the show and say, well, we'll see you at the next one. And I think for me, it shows leaps and bounds. It's nothing I wouldn't do to want to be there for the company because they've been there for me in my darkest. So I'm not going to say that obviously, we're going to get along with everybody there on the shows, and we've seen that firsthand. There's some people we can get along with, there's some people we can't get along with. But for me, the journey of ECW and ICW over the last 16, 17 months has definitely been the most memorable one. And to be able to capture my first ever heavyweight championship, let alone any championship within the space of the first 3 shows, and be able to have a dominant run as well, I think it just gives me the opportunity to tick off a lot of boxes in the dream of professional wrestling that I never thought I was ever going to get anywhere else. So I honestly take my hat off to the company that's given me the opportunity to shine.
Absolutely.
So now, in all honesty, before I jump back into, the next subject, what possessed you to drive through Cyclone Alfred for Insane Asylum 24 this past weekend as we record this? Because some people may say it was silly, but then there's also admiration that goes into that and shows how dedicated you actually are to the business. So just tell us a little bit about the road trip, Apex.
Okay, well, the road trip was definitely last minute, and it was definitely not a half-assed comment that I made to my wife. I said to her, look, obviously Alfred decided to call everybody in Brisbane a bunch of flaming yahoos and then cancel everything. So there was no bus, there was no train, there was no plane, and that was my ins to get to Canberra. So I was sitting there at work and I was kind of deliberating on what I need to do. Could I potentially get an inland bus down and around? Could I just get a bus too? Could I, even up until about the day before, the airport was still up in arms as to whether or not they were going to continue to run flights. So it wasn't until the morning of my decision that I got a text message saying flights are being cancelled and being stored into credits. So I'm like, okay, this is going to suck, but what can I do? And it came down to a conversation with my sister, and I give a big shout out to her as well. Her and her partner, he runs a diesel mechanic operation, and basically in payment of some of the work he does, they give him abundance of diesel fuel for free. So there was an option there that they were going to allow me to just go in and fill up a bunch of jerry cans plus my ute to be able to allow me to drive down for the littlest cost possible. So I was like, if I can do this and pull this off, this is going to be one hell of a story to tell people that I managed to drive 3,000 kilometers to main event a show and really put on a performance. So I was like, well, you know what? There's no time like the present to do something crazy, and it is Insane Asylum, so why don't we stick to the code and do something insane? And I called the wife and said, I'm going to drive down to Canberra this afternoon after I finish work. And she goes, dear Lord, God, Jesus Christ, is there anyone coming with you? And I was like, no, it's just going to be me and the road and the podcasts. And I was listening to the Court and Conversation pod when I did have signal.
That's us.
Yes. I appreciate that.
Look, I appreciate it up until the point I heard fuck Apex Anderson. But, you know what, that's a different conversation for another day.
I don't think I've said that once in my life.
That's right. Honestly, it was a really cool road trip. I'll send you guys a really interesting video I had when I was passing through Goondiwindi where Triple J was playing John Cena's theme song, and then there was about a 45-minute discussion as to why he's gone heel after so many years. So that was cool, just pretending to argue with the radio between Goondiwindi and Dubbo. But honestly, look, it was a chance for me to tick off a lot of boxes that I never got to do. So I had enough time in the morning after I woke up on the way to Canberra to do a quick hot lap of Bathurst. Never been, thought it was great. Obviously got to drive to Canberra, which is nice to take the sights and see all the wind towers and the wind turbines and stuff. And then being able to say that I managed to drive over the Sydney Harbour Bridge and stuff like that on the way home. It's just ticking a lot of boxes and making a lot of memories on the way. And this is an opportunity where I got to tick a lot of boxes, but also I guess for me, and this is going to sound a little bit selfish, but it was an opportunity for me to just kind of have 18 hours to just kind of think about everything and just drive on the road, just have me in my mind and just kind of zone out. And it was good because it gave me a lot of closure as a couple of ideas. I had arguments with myself and predicted scenarios with myself and all these things of what's coming and what's on the way. And it gave me a lot of clarity to be grateful for the things that I've got and be appreciative of the fact that I could do this and still manage to go down, have a great night, have a great weekend with everybody and come back and still come home to the love of my life. So, I guess that's what inspired me to want to come down as well, is just the fact that everybody has given me so much, what's the word? They've just given me a lot of time to be there for them. So the least I could do is give back to them, even though they've given me a lot. It's just drive down and be there for the show and not disappoint and not be the reason why they couldn't have a match and cut the show short and deprive the fans of an opportunity to have one hell of a match that we knew we were going to have from the get-go with the I Quit. It was a no-brainer that I had to be there, but in doing so, also being able to obtain a new title belt along the way, it was just a trip and a journey and a memory that I got to make along the way. So this is something I'm going to talk about for years to come.
Okay.
So now it's kind of switching gears again because ADHD. Go Birds. How are you feeling about a few weeks removed from the Super Bowl?
Concerned.
Yeah. Because of what Howie's doing, or because I'm just like, fuck Howie, come on. Love you, bro. Like, you're smart, but you're dumb.
Yeah. This is your guys' chance to rant now, because, like, what a fucking roller coaster it's been the last few weeks.
Yeah, what the fuck?
It literally feels like he's just trying to auction off the Super Bowl team, and that's my concern. Like, waking up and seeing Darius Slay on Sunday being traded off, I'm like, okay, that's a big shock. And then seeing CJ go this morning, I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? What is he doing to my Eagles? But look, they clearly have a plan, and I want to know what it is. For me, there's a suspicion that there's a salary cap that they're trying to buy big for the draft, but there's also another one in my head that is just thinking that they do have to free up some space to sign people like Saquon and Jalen and keeping our big names like Mailata and Dickerson and stuff like that. Now, I've just seen a rumor. I'm not too sure if it's true, but I've just seen a rumor that Johnson's retiring. So it's all up in arms. Obviously, there are some people who want to go back to their homes. Kenny Pickett was a big surprise for me. I thought he was going to stay with us for a bit. But as long as we just don't sign Gardner Minshew again, I'll be happy.
Yeah, because, like, I think with, like, CJ Gardner-Johnson, with him, another thing that's rumoured is because he has a bit of an ego. They're kind of like, he's seen that Saquon's got such a big pay bump, and he's wanting a pay bump as well, and he's like, if I don't get it, I'd rather be traded. That's the current rumour. Someone's like, there's rumblings that he wanted to be paid more.
I went to the fucking Texans of all people.
And some people said that's the thing. It's like when you start getting good players and you're putting up, like, their salaries as such, it's kind of like others expecting that too, like wanting more, kind of like more money as such. And I'm like, that's one of the rumours too, and I'm kind of like, it could be a thing, but I'm like, that kind of sucks, because it's like, both him and Slay, I think, like, as much as, like, it sucks losing, like, Bradbury and some of the others, I'm kind of like, they're the two for me. Like, even Sweat kind of sucks, but I'm like, it's just, I think it's mainly Slay and CJ Gardner-Johnson for me. Like, losing them sucks. Even as a non-Eagles
fan, like, even as a Rams fan, I sat there, and when they put Slay, I was like, the fuck?
He's
like,
big play fucking Slay for a reason, right? Like,
I just shook my head. Like, you guys getting rid of Slay for me was worse than us getting rid of Cup. And Cup's like a power player, but I was just like, Slay is still so young and has so many years ahead of him, and you're just, why?
Yeah, sometimes
that boggles me.
Sometimes, like, I try not to doubt Howie too much, because it's like, some stuff he does, he's pure genius. That sometimes, like, some stuff I'm like, why? Like, that's so stupid. I feel
like there's a method to his madness, but, like, even as a non-Eagles fan, I'm sitting here going, what the fuck is that method?
Yeah. Man.
It's definitely confusing to hear what he's going through at the moment and doing what he's doing, but I guess the scenarios I've been playing out in my head all day. One of them is the ego, and I agree with you there.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely an ego thing. You go back 8 months into the season when there was an ego question about the difference between Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown and how they weren't talking through the games, and it was like one of them was potentially get moved on at season's end. Well, maybe we're looking at the wrong people. Maybe because you've got White Lightning, who's a great cornerback, and obviously got us our pick 6 for the Super Bowl. Like, they're going to throw more money at him. Yes. And he's young and he's hungry. So I think the way how he's building this team is based on youth. Obviously, youngest quarterback, youngest overall team, except for obviously Saquon's a little bit older, but like he's still got years in him.
Yeah, definitely.
But like I genuinely think the Eagles are trying to build on youth and continue a drive with a younger experience. But I also think he's trying to weed out a lot of people that he promised them a Super Bowl and then said he'd move them on afterwards, because there's been some guys who have been there, like CJ, he's been there for this is his second Super Bowl now, or third, sorry.
Yeah.
Second one Super Bowl. You'd be pretty content. It's kind of like if you do stretch into NRL, and I don't know who you guys go for in the league, but it's kind of like Jerome Luai leaving the Panthers and going to the Tigers. Like, yeah, okay, I've had my wins now, I want to go help another club try and get better. Who knows what this could be, but as long as we don't completely offload all of our star players and leave us with nothing and then have zero experience teaching zero experience, then I'll be fine. But look, I'm just happy we went the distance and beat Kansas City this year, and hopefully next year we can go just as good, if not obviously back for back. But look, nothing's ever great when you do it 2 in a row. It starts to get boring. So I'd love to see someone like maybe the Bills, the Rams, or even the Lions get up for the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah, no,
I too would very much like to see the Rams get up for the Super Bowl. I honestly, for me this year, my sleeper team, and I said it from the get-go, was the Ravens. And the fact that they came so close just to get knocked out, I was like, even as a Rams fan, I was like, no, my money would have been on the Ravens from the get-go. So it's a good thing I'm not a betting man, but...
I'm confident on the Rams, but I just don't know about that decision to potentially put money towards Aaron Rodgers. I think that's a silly mistake.
Yeah, well, they got rid of other players since Cup. They just got rid of one of our fucking defensive ends and brought someone else in who's like old, but he's like friends with Rodgers, and I was like, oh god damn it.
And that's the worst part. When you hear that they're friends with someone, you know they're going to start making that move.
Yeah.
Who was it? There was Zach Ertz, great tight end. Looks like he wants to try and come back to Philadelphia, but Washington in their rookie rebuild year almost went the whole distance and went to the championship playoffs game. You don't really want to be leaving Washington just to go home now when you're on the cusp of doing something great. So when you hear like all of his friends back at Philly saying, "Oh, we'd have Zach back in a minute," 100% agree. I think Zach Ertz was great for the Eagles, but I think he's doing something greater with a rookie QB at Washington Commanders, and I think that he should just stay there. And I think if you're going to build a team based on talent, put your experience with your rookie and help build them grow. And you watch Washington Commanders will be a force to reckon with this season.
I'm just heartbroken that last year we had Stetson Bennett from the Georgia Bulldogs as our backup quarterback for the Rams, and then injuries have just fucked him completely. Fucking what was it? Three back-to-back championships that he helped Georgia get, makes it to the NFL and gets hurt in preseason because fuck yeah.
That was my biggest worry for Brandon Graham this year. I genuinely thought he was going to be out for the season, but then managed to come back.
That was breaking my heart. I'm like, please tell me he's going to come back. Like, he's retiring. Come on. It was bad enough Kelsey didn't get that Super Bowl win, you know? Like, I wanted Kelsey to get that Super Bowl win. I was so sad for him. I was like, fuck this.
See, like, this is like Nova's time to ask questions, but I'm just laughing because I'm just, as you're saying that, I was like, did you see Apex, all the people that were, like, shitting on Jason Kelsey because like he was crying with happy tears that Philly won, and all these people are like,
shit him and his
you're a shit brother, like you should be there comforting your brother who's in a time of need because he's just lost his Super Bowl and like that. I'm like, yeah, because fuck being happy for the team that he just played for the last X amount of years, right? And the team that he himself competed against his brother in 2 years ago. Like,
yeah.
And they were shitting so much on Kylie, and I'm like, she's fucking bled green for years. Get fucked. She shouldn't have to go for a brother-in-law. She doesn't want to. Like,
that's exactly right.
Maybe remind everyone that Taylor Swift used to be an Eagles fan.
Yeah, Taylor Swift used to be a fucking Eagles fan. Traitor.
She's a fucking mark. I gotta tell you though, I appreciate Jace's tweet that he put out where he said, "Look, I'm happy for the Eagles, but I'm sad for my brother." But I also almost wanted to retweet it and say, but you wouldn't want to be sad for someone who almost went 3 Super Bowls in a row. Like, you know, let somebody else have it. Be happy for someone else for a change. I get it. It's your brother. If my brother went the distance 3 years in a row, won 2 and lost the third, I was like, well, you know, man, at least you got 2 more than that guy does, you know? But you just don't be so butthurt when it gets to the end of the Super Bowl. You're like, oh, well, my original team won, and I'm happy, but I'm also sad for my brother who's got 3 more than I ever will have, and yeah, it's a very conflicting tweet that he put up, and I was very conflicted as to how I wanted to respond to it. But I appreciate what he said because he was like, well, I love the Eagles and I love the fact they won. I'm also sad for my brother who also won 2 but didn't get his 3rd Super Bowl in a row. So it's like, well, I don't think anybody wanted to listen to Travis sing after the Super Bowl anyway.
I think Apex just leaked the script for this year's NRL. Nathan Cleary's brother is signed for the Warriors. The Warriors will get their first ever premiership win by beating the Panthers in the final.
Could you imagine that?
That'd be sick. I would actually be here for that. I'm a Broncos supporter, but I'd be here for that.
Honestly, the year that Broncos made was it 2023? Broncos made. Honestly, that whole final series, I was go Wars the whole way. I was pulling for them so hard.
I was over here from the Broncos going, fuck you, but I can see it.
Yeah, look, I think if it was a Waz Panthers grand final this year, I wouldn't want to watch the game. I just want to watch the coach's box the whole game.
Yes!
I just want to see what Ivan does the whole time.
We just need Taylor Swift there so we can look at the coach's box.
No, you just need Mary Fowler up there in the commentary box.
I'll let Nova ask her next question anyway.
Oh, where am I up to now? Oh, hang on. Ooh, what happened there?
We said we were going to try ran too much, and then now here we are, but...
It's fine. I'm for it. I'm all for it.
Where did it go? I lost my spot. There we go. There I am. So, it literally says, this is my notes, we'll try not to rant too much, as we just ranted a couple weeks ago with Australian Eagles superfan. It's just been announced, Australian pro wrestler Ryan Jacobs, about all things Philadelphia Eagles. Cheap plug, go listen to it.
But 2 episodes before this one.
Yeah. But what originally drew you to Philadelphia Eagles Apex?
Very, very easy answer. So I never knew what team I wanted to go for growing up. And I always had, like, the Madden games on PlayStation, but I would never pick a team. I would always build my own team. And I'd always build my own team based on an NRL team. So I'd used to do, like, it was a Washington Dragons or something like that, or it was, like, the Tennessee Titans. I'd make them the Gold Coast Crusaders or something like that. And it was, I never really had never really had an NFL team growing up. But then I think it was 2005. I think it was 2005 or 4. A movie came out with Mark Wahlberg about Vince Papale and becoming an Eagle at the age of 35. And it was a very inspiring movie. And the movie lives rent-free in my head. Every time I see it pop up, I will literally go out of my way to just sit and watch it. But the movie's called Invincible, and I watched it for the first time as a kid at the cinemas. I remember this, I was in Brisbane, and I was at the Logan Lee Hyperdome watching the movie. And I fell in awe with it because my dad, he wasn't an NFL fan, but he thought it was based on NRL, so he went to go watch it and then realised it was an NFL movie. We sat through it. And, I fell in love with it, and I thought it was great, and I thought it was a very, very, inspiring story, and it got me interested in NFL altogether. And then since 2005, it's just, I've stayed with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I've just been a follower because I believe, like, not put aside what they stand for, the city of brotherly love, the city that never gives up. For me, I've just been so wrapped around the idea of Philadelphia itself. It's the home of the greatest sandwich in the world, the Philly cheesesteak. It's home of the Italian stallion, Rocky Balboa. It's home to hope, and it's home to the ability to dream big and not let your big dreams get crushed, because there's always another step you can take. And I loved everything that embodied the Philadelphia Eagles back then, because back then they hadn't been to a Super Bowl or won a Super Bowl yet, but they were the team that everybody wanted to be or beat. But they always just used to get close. And they always had a great rivalry with the Dallas Cowboys, and every match they always had, it was an absolute mozza. But I think what really sold me was the Kelly Green jersey. As soon as that came out,
yes,
and I saw the Kelly Green jersey, I was like, I'm an Eagles fan. But it would be when the movie came out with Mark Wahlberg. That was when I started to become a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
Have you ever actually seen it?
No, I need to actually watch it.
I've
never actually seen it.
I could be biased because I'm just a massive Mark Wahlberg.
I love Mark Wahlberg. I'm shocked that I haven't seen it, to be honest with you.
It's a fucking masterpiece. It truly is.
Because see, mine is so basic why I became a Philly Eagles fan. It's like 2012. I was in Paddy's Markets, and there was a whole heap of NFL hats, and all the guys at school would play gridiron and stuff, and I got interested in it, and I was like, what is this? Because I was always big on NRL, and they kind of went into it a bit, and then when I was at Paddy's Markets, all those hats were there, and I'm like, that one. And it was literally just Philly Eagles because it was green, it was cool, I liked Eagles, so I'm like, that works, and it's just stuck ever since. But I haven't got fully into it till probably about 2022, because we got KO. We finally got KO. And I'm like, fuck, there's actual games on here. And we got into watching it, and I started learning more of the rules properly and everything. And just, ever since, essentially, become hyper fixated on it.
Funny you mentioned what you just said. My very first Eagles jersey I ever managed to buy myself was a Carson Wentz Eagles jersey from Paddy's Markets.
That's crazy.
I got to surprise a friend of mine and go down for her birthday, and she showed me what Sydney was all about. This was my first time ever leaving the state by myself and going on a spontaneous trip, and I was only I think it was 18, 19, and I never could get merchandise for Philly because it was just so hard to get in this country. And I went to Paddy's Markets, and I was walking along, and they had a Philly Eagles jersey, and the lady wanted $50 for it. And I was like, I'm not even going to hesitate, I'm just going to buy it. And I bought it, and I've still got it in my closet up here. I've never got rid of it, so I have a Carson Wentz jersey here. And that's, first piece of Eagles memorabilia. But if you do get a chance to watch it, please watch it. It's a great movie. It's about the story of Vince Papale from the Dick Vermeil era. So if you're not too familiar with what it is, Dick Vermeil obviously took over as a college coach to take over the Eagles. He decided that to try and reboost the love of Philadelphia spirit, he would try to invite fans to come to the tryout days to try and see if they could try it for the Eagles. A whole heap of people tried, a whole heap of people failed, but the one person that had an eye on was Vince Papali, and he was someone who he never showed him his age, but he always managed to outrun everybody, and they ended up making cuts, and they cut one of their biggest players to put Vince in, and against the New York Giants in one of the playoff games, he called the player of the match, which was he forced a fumble and scored a touchdown off it. So Vince Papali was known as a household name back in the 80s. Just because of everything he did and showed people that age was just a number and he could still continue to play up until his 30s and 40s, and he ended up retiring later on after giving Vermel the first NFC ring back before it was Super Bowl. But NFC ring, I've got the ring here, and it's the favourite one I wear. It's the Kelly Green ring, and it's got the score of the Eagles versus the Cowboys on it in the NFC playoffs. So definitely watch the movie. It is a fantastic movie. Elizabeth Banks is in it, and it's just a great movie to watch.
I have to give it a crack because I've heard of it, but I've never got around to actually watching it. I love Mark Wahlberg, so I'll have to get into it. Also,
yeah, please do it.
What was that, sorry?
I said, please watch it and then let me know what you think.
Yes. Also, so my next thing, it's a cheap plug. Someone on this show, me, suggested your current run of merch and upcoming ring gear, inspiration and such. Can we expect more Eagles references in the near future for Apex Anderson's gear?
Yes, so look, I had to refresh my gear. It's been a struggle over the last, I'm going to say 12 months to try and reinvent myself and my character and tell a story that I want to tell down here and obviously build myself to be a little bit different to prior characters. And I guess the first character you guys saw that I had is very shocker, but it made no sense. It was a shocker, skull and bones and roses, and then none of it told a real good story. And it was just kind of like a fight to the death, but have a good time doing it. The next one was obviously the pirate kind of style when I won the gold, and I had the gold kick pads and the sunken pirate ship with the steering wheel, the ship wheel, and the skull with the kraken all the way through. And I guess that kind of embodied my tattoo sleeve. And it was just something that I thought was going to go with dark gold, chasing the gold. And it was obviously chasing gold would insinuate pirates and stuff like that. But then I was chewing up with the idea. I was sitting at a Sporting Globe in Brisbane, and I was someone was talking about the iconic design of the Eagles logo and how you couldn't ever recreate anything different like that, and it stood for something and symbolized something and it meant something. And I looked at the logo and went, you know what, they're damn right about that eagle. I've always loved eagles, wedge-tailed eagles, bald eagles, whatever the case may be. I've loved them. I thought they were the most majestic bird. When you're driving through Queensland, you see them everywhere. Literally driving from Theodore to Goondiwindi on Friday. If I had $1 for every time I had wedge-tailed eagles, I could probably buy my own wedge-tailed eagle, but they are humongous birds of flight. And I wanted to do something that I knew that was a piece of the eagles, but a piece of me, a piece of the spirit animal that I love the most, but also something of a different color and caliber. And obviously we know that the character that I've got now, it does resemble very close to the Philadelphia Eagles. The good news for me is that the eagle that is currently on my chest, I drew from scratch. So this isn't a copyrighted eagle. This isn't anything else, but it also means something else. So the eagle's shape itself is actually a symbol. If you take the eagle away and you just look at the outline of the symbol, the way the eagle is actually laid up, it's actually a Greek symbol, and it symbolizes freedom above all heights, which I thought was really cool. So I kept the white outline of the symbol and then fit the eagle inside the symbol. And then obviously I've got, the Apex Anderson, the wording, but I also figured that this would be a bit more of a simple logo for people to understand. And to build this character, I guess the Apex Anderson that I'm trying to build here with this eagle is based around the idea of soaring around the country and taking my my craft to new heights and doing things I haven't done before, like top rope dives and outside moves, and obviously my first I Quit match with weapons and copying a chain across my back. Like, these are all firsts for me. So I'm seeing things in eagle vision like everybody else would for the first time, and it just symbolizes for me that hope to continue to fly and continue to soar and continue to create greatness. But also too, in the process, it's one badass looking logo, which I was pretty happy with the outcome of. I took a step back and went, I don't need any more, I don't need any less. And with that, like, the first time the other day, I had a kid at the show go, where can I buy your merch? And I'm like, this makes me feel good about how I've designed this, and it gives me hope that even though my logo has a hope symbol in it, it just gives me that opportunity to feel like I'm a new character with a lot more to offer. And obviously with the song that I've gone with, the entrance, which is Gangster's Paradise, it symbolized everything that I've come through. Like, obviously Lacrimosa was my original song, and it was a great dubstep song, but it was too, I don't know, it was too much. And I feel like the Gangster's Paradise, even the logo, the text itself and the lyrics, and it says, been spending most of our lives living in a gangster's paradise. So I've been spending most of my life in somebody else's shadow, and it's time for me to step up and take my own path and establish who I am. And it's been a journey so far. So I figured that's how we're going to put it forward, is we're going to soar like an eagle, and we're going to have a great time doing it and go to new heights and new levels.
I will say too, it's the No Resolve cover, I think, that you use of that song, or is it State of Mind? I always get the two bands confused.
State of Mind.
Yeah, State of Mind.
Oscar from No Resolve and Fella from State of Mind have done so many collaborations that they just fucking blend together at this point. That's actually a former Song of the Week here on the podcast.
Yeah.
I was going to say many years ago, but I think it's many months ago, I should say. What are words? But,
look, I'm not going to tell you that you're the reason why I picked the song, but it's very close.
I will say, obviously, this is an audio-only podcast, but the Kelly Green shirt that you do have on, it's very reminiscent of the shirt that I did wear at the Super Bowl. Miss Nova Lee had me in a Philadelphia Eagles shirt. I was wearing it had the traditional eagle on the front, not the one they've got now, but it was
like the 70s.
It was the throwback eagle, but it has AJ Brown's name and number on the back. If that didn't have an Apex Anderson thing on the front, I'd probably wear that.
You gotta have that cheeky dig. I just thought we were getting along, and here you are with
in all seriousness, you've recently started a bit of a, and I try my best to avoid hard-hitting questions on this podcast, but selfishly, I want to know the answer to this one. Recently, you've started this little alliance with Jackson Thornhill, which has blown mine and the fans' mind, because as far as I was aware, you guys hated each other with the way you tore each other apart back in August of 2024. I should say last year, in case people decide to listen to this in whatever fucking year this is, but it was August 2024. ICW cross promo with the Masked Wrestlers League for Saturday Night Smash. In that main event, you and Jackson Thornhill beat the shit out of each other. You even cracked a rib, which you actually did just re-aggravate against Rob Messenger this past weekend as we record this. And I did say I helped you to the back. Despite everything and all the issues we've had, I did help you to the back as a matter of respect. But where did this whole thing with Jackson come from, dude? Because, like, genuinely, he has not answered my calls in 2 weeks. I am technically the manager of the Extreme Capital Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, and I have not had a conversation with him since, unless you count him telling both me and Nova to shut up on commentary.
I need to fight this guy.
So how? And again, I'm assuming the battle you had may have stirred up some sort of respect, but how did this come about? Because I know Jackson, even just on this show, him and Benny were in that scramble match together, that Capital Carnage match, and they were beating the shit out of each other trying to become World Heavyweight Champion. So how did this all come to be, man?
So it goes back to that match. Obviously, after the show, we come backstage and we had a bit of a tiff about, obviously, who kicked who and the where. And you know, I hadn't met Striker at the time, but then moving down to the match after that, where I lost my belt to Striker, I was backstage, and Striker and I were having a conversation. We both mutually agreed that it was a bullshit call from Messenger, and we just had to kind of get on. And Jackson had said to me, he goes, look, I don't like you, but there's a bit of respect there for you not taking that out on one of my guys. And then obviously he went on to win the title belt that night for the tag team, so I went backstage and congratulated him again. Look, mate, clearly you've got some championship caliber. Actually, you managed to get the job done without somebody else's help. Dude, mad respect. And then Jackson and I didn't say too much after that. We shook hands. We went our separate ways. But it was ECW show just recently, and I'd gone backstage, and Miss Ruby July was there, and she was having a conversation about the idea of pairing a bunch of people together that nobody would think saw coming, and being able to band to form an alliance or a faction that there's a promise that there's a lot of talent that could potentially take over and take a lot of gold. So Jackson and I stepped aside and said, obviously, we're the biggest egos in this group at the moment. Obviously, I've got a lot to say for myself, and I try to back my shit up. And Jackson, the same being. And I said, look, for the sake of this, man, if this means an opportunity for all of us to walk out with gold, I'm happy to shake hands right now, but what do you want to do with Rogue? And him and Striker obviously were having a bit of a disagreement about the idea of Rogue and what was going on. And I said, and I even backed you, I said, have you thought about having a conversation with Crossfire and seeing what his thoughts are, and maybe he wants to move Rogue across to something bigger and crazier? And Jackson was like, look, I don't know if that's going to be the right thing for him right now, because he's probably still trying to keep Rogue together. So I said, look, well, let bygones be bygones. I won't obviously get involved because, you and I haven't seen eye to eye, but I know that you give me a little bit of respect here and there. So I was like, not going to shoot too much with you. But then obviously come the I Quit match, and, I shook Rob's hand and said, look, he's one hell of an arsehole, but he's one hell of a fighter, and he put up one hell of a fight. And then at the end, you helped me backstage as well. And you shook my hand and then asked me if I was okay, and I appreciated that. And obviously I'm wearing my ice packs under my ribs right now, which is fun. But I guess the conversation all came together with the idea that we all wanted something in common, and there were certain things I wanted, there were certain things he wanted, and I saw a common ground. Now, obviously, there's no wrestler out there who can honestly say to your face, I don't want the ECW World Heavyweight title, but that's not my goal right now. My goal is to help myself and Benny get tag team gold first, and I would love to one day say that I was a Grand Slam champion and be able to do that. And I'm happy to work in rotation, and Jackson and I had an agreement where, if he took the heavyweight title, he could help pull some leverage to get the tag team titles together, and we could dominate as a faction to have the heavyweight and the tag all together. And then if there was another title belt that might be over my shoulder that, might be for other people to try and take on, maybe we can get somebody else in the group that might want to be interstate champion or whatever. So there is an opportunity for a lot of gold and a lot of things to come out of this, that there wasn't a lot of, there's not a lot of cons to doing this, except for obviously making sure that the guys who are normally not up to any good don't try to con us out of anything bad. But Miss Ruby July has assured us that if anything does go away to her plans, that she's got an enforcer there that will take care of the problem for us.
Yes, we all saw the unit, someone that I know very well. He's also was very closely affiliated with Rogue, and I guess wherever Jackson Thornhill goes is wherever the unit's going to go now. But I did have Miss Ruby July say that it was, she said it's not personal, it's just business, and it might seem cliche to some people, but I'm not taking it personal. I just don't understand why in the last 2 weeks I've talked to you more than I have talked to my own protege. So I'm a little confused by that. I was hoping maybe you could shed some light on that. It is what it is. I guess I'll just keep trying, but
I will reach out to him and see if he wants to chat to you. Look, you know me, I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but I've always tried to keep the peace and make sure that any vile things that might come out of my mouth aren't directed at you, and is more directed towards Rob on commentary or anybody else who happens to be on commentary who shouldn't be there. You guys do a professional job in commentary. I'm glad that Mrs Crossfire, Mrs Novalee decides to grace us with her presence in ICW. I think that's a great addition to the commentary in ICW. I think that is great for us because it got me hyped up. Like, I was sitting in the corner with a smile on my face when you were wearing your Eagles jersey and announcing the I Quit match. I couldn't help but have a little grin on my face, but then I had to turn around and look at Rob Messenger, and it was full focus. So yeah, I've got a hype crew in the corner, which I appreciate, and obviously, we haven't seen eye to eye, but I do appreciate everything that you guys do for the shows. So I'm happy to reach out to Jackson, have a chat to him, but I also was going to chat to you one-on-one about Rogue and be like, you know what, if you guys need help, I'm happy to help, because, you know, credit where credit is due. Striker's been a good, he's been an up-and-coming star this year, and he's put in a lot of work, and he's got his rewards, and he's got his cake, and he can eat it. I was obviously salty not towards him in the match, and I told him that in the match. I thought that this was going to be unfair. There was too quick pinfalls, but obviously that's in the past and we move on. But the fact that he still held his own, and I would say he definitely is one to be proud of and pride of Rogue. He was true to his word and said that he was just going to try and fight me normally, and he did, and Better Man won that night, and he's managed to obviously keep the belt, and he's managed to get tag team title gold as well. So you've got something building down there in Rogue, which is a surprise for me, and I take my hat off to you guys, because it's not where I thought I'd be going. But look, if you ever need any help, if we can agree to mutually shake hands after this podcast, if you need help, you know, I'll be there to help you.
I know for a fact Barry Blake won't be happy to hear about that with all the strings he's been trying to pull on social media. But we'll move on, Apex. With that being said, throughout everything, I'd like to think that Nova and I were both, especially on commentary. Yeah, I mean, I called you Apex Idiot a couple of times, but you know it was tongue-in-cheek. I gave the devil his due. I gave credit where credit was due, as you said. I did my best to call that match down the middle, and I feel like we both did a great job of doing that. At one point, I think I actually let a holy shit slip on the microphone. Luckily, ICW management weren't too mad, because they were like, just how good the match was, that even myself and Nova kind of found out a little bit. One of those chair shots you gave to Rob, I was like, good fucking Lord. Holy shit, like, it was
the
crazy.
way you clobbered him with the bell too.
I was just like holy shit. I think it was the concerto. I was just like, holy shit, because it was brutal. But with that being said, I've had a chance to call a handful of your matches now, both in ICW and ECW, and they have all been really great matches. So with that being said, it's time for that staple question where we start to mark out as we wind down a little bit. What is both your favourite match that you've had and that you've just seen as a fan, whether that be live or on TV or whatever else?
I'll go with the favourite match I've seen on live TV, because the other one's going to be a bit of a story. Favourite match that I've seen on TV would have to have been... See, this is tough. This is tough because there's a very recent one, and then there is an older one, and they both are of the exact same caliber of excitement. The Survivor Series and seeing Punk return at the very end of the War Games match is the most recent match of my life that I've enjoyed and loved, because I love the War Games match. I love the return of Randy. I love the fact that this was the first time that Seth and Jay were finally getting along. Sammy was in there with them. You've got Cody in there. Randy comes back. Like, it's filled with crazies trying to cut the bullshit, and it was a great match of like seeing friendship come together, seeing like Jey Uso and Seth just hug it out and like put the crap aside. But then hearing the music cut out and hearing that very recognizable static noise and knowing what's about to come and realizing that my childhood hero has finally made a return back to home, regardless of the shit that happened over 10 years and all that crap that had happened, that was the highlight of my life. And there is a video recording circulating of me in my underwear falling out of my bed at top speed because I thought that the show was over and I'd gone straight back to bed, and then I heard and my wife was filming me fall out of bed and run back to the TV because she thought something was coming, and all you can see is my legs in the air and then my head between my legs going, "Is that fucking Punk?" and then running back to the laundry. So, and then me marking out like a little kid, like a 6-year-old boy standing in front of the TV seeing Bluey for the first time, like, "Is that my kid? Is that my Hollywood?" It's like, yeah, that was all time. But the greatest match of all time for me that is rivaling that is the Degeneration X versus the McMahons. Just that entire segment leading up to it, but the match that they had where Triple H came out as Vince and Shawn came out as Shane, And then there was like the toilet scene where they dumped the toilet all over them. But having that match at Mania was just iconic for me. I could give you title matches, I could give you cash-ins, I could give you everything. But it was the sheer fact of it was pure comedy, but seriousness at the same time. It was the best of what wrestling could be at the time. And you could do so much, and they did. They picked on the boss, and it was just perfect. And I loved Generation X for so many years. And obviously, the older you get, the more you appreciate some of the little things. But just like I can recite that entire segment word for word. And obviously, when Triple H is doing the impersonation of Vince and talking about roosters, and it's like, the fact of the matter is, I love cock. And it's like, oh my God, like you can't say that, but you were saying it. This is so good. But yeah, it was definitely the Generation X era versus the McMahon's by far my favorite match of all time.
Was that the it was SummerSlam, but I can't even think what year it was. I think was it 2006? SummerSlam
2004. It was 04, I believe. It was either 04 or 05. Because it was right after that Edge and who was it? Edge was doing the wedding segment, and they turned on Edge and Christian after that. I think it was 04. I think.
I'm just thinking. No, I think it was 06. The McMahons versus DX, because it was after WrestleMania 22, and they had like that whole 6-month build up. But I'm just trying to think, because there's like all the comedy and stuff, but even in that match, you had Vince and Shane hitting like all like the old tag team finishes and shit, and it was like this whole thing where like Vince was trying to be comedic at the start, and then like obviously DX comes back and Shawn gets like fucking Shane gets super kicked out of the air by Shawn with the coast to coast. Like that's actually a super solid match with the fucking Umaga runs in and then Kane runs in, and there's like all this super overbooked clusterfuck because it's a McMahon match, but that's actually a very hidden gem. That might even be like the match of the week, the tag match, McMahon's versus DX at SummerSlam 06. Like that's actually like that's a low key banger that I'd forgotten about, because when you say McMahon versus DX, my mind goes to like Shawn Michaels just versus Vince, or Shawn and God versus Shane and Vince in the handicap match, even though it was meant to be a tag match. And then there's like the fucking there's them against like the Spirit Squad as well. Oh my God, dude, yes.
Just anything to Generation X was my childhood of enjoyment. Like, I remember laughing till crying over the midget court, or when Shawn was leaving and he was working in the kitchen and he super kicked a 6-year-old girl in the corridor because the food wasn't right. Like, it just
it's so stupid but so good.
And that's what I want my tag team stable to be like. With me and Benny, when we do Whiplex, like it's like that. When Ruby July was talking about new title belts, all I could think about was Shawn Michaels going, "Oh yeah, I want that. And I'm sitting there going, "Well, I need to do that." So Ruby July comes out and goes, "I got tag team belts." I'm like, "Oh, pick me!" And I'm like, I just want it to be like, I'm the tall, funny guy, and Benny's the short, funny guy, but Benny's designed to be 7 foot tall.
I was going to say, he's not short.
Short 7 feet.
He's not short. I got the stats. He's 7 foot tall.
7 foot tall, 95 kilograms.
Yeah, I'm just one of the shorter 7 feet. But see, that's pure comedy, because people enjoy that. And even with the spray bottles, like, just wetting people in the crowd and getting them pumped up. Like, I'm hoping one day we have a tag match where people are spraying us back. That's when I know I've made it. But I guess to answer to part 2 of the question, one of my favourite matches that I've done is a tough one. There's an old match that I had with an old friend of mine, and we put on an absolute banger of a match that never got finished. It finished in a DQ from someone interfering, and I guess we'll never know who will ever win that one. But I think it has to be my first title match, because it was actually my first win. So I spent many years having a losing streak, and for me to be able to win in the night of the warm-up match, in the dark match against Los Dos, and then winning that one, that was my first ever win, but then also that night winning my first ever title belt, that has to go down as probably one of the greatest matches that I've ever had. Alongside probably my debut match for ICW, being able to see the crowd be in awe of some of the moves that I could do, the reverse spinning calf kick and the reverse bulldog, and I think just being able to do the spine buster again, and not many people see this, but there's a point in one of the matches that I did, I think it was my return match, I did the spine buster and I sat down, I looked up at the sky for 2 seconds before working to the pin, and it was because I was holding back tears going, I'm doing this one more time. So every match is my greatest match because I'm enjoying it as if it was my first and last, but I definitely would say my title belt match, becoming a ICW Australian Heavyweight Champion for the first time in my first title belt match, that's got to be my match of my career.
And I was actually on commentary for that, and I actually quite enjoyed the match. Again, don't know if I agree with the way you won the match, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, let's pull back the curtain for 2 seconds, because I want some clarification on this. Now, a lot of people aren't happy with how the match went. However, the match, this is my justification, but I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I apologise, and look, I will work for forgiveness in the future. But in a DQ match, I was always under the assumption you can't choke somebody out. You can't rear naked choke somebody out. That's rule number one for DQ matches. The problem is right before Benny came out, I was in a rear naked choke, and the referee was watching but not calling. So then, for me to be getting stared at with an illegal move and sitting there going, well, why is nothing happening? He's just watching me being cheated on right now. For me to be able to get out of that choker hold and be pissed off to the point where I just punched Bodie square in the dick, it's like, well, you've done something underhanded. I'm going to do something underhanded, but mine's going to be taking away your privilege to have babies. You're just taking away my win box for a couple of minutes. Regardless of the fact we both did something we're not proud of, and obviously you got to do what you got to do to win gold. Again, not my finest moment. Probably one of my highlights of me turning the start of turning heel in that one. Bit of fourth wall there for you. But
I will say though, Devious Dave saying that he was going to personally hand the winner of the match the championship after he'd vacated it. His expression changed rather quickly when his son didn't win, so that was kind of funny for me to watch. So I'll say thank you for that.
Yes, that's all right. Very, very interesting after that, because Devious Dave
said he was going to hand the title to you and then refused to hand it to you. So
yeah. And then passed me in the locker room and didn't say anything at all. And I was like, well, do I have any tips or tricks? And he was just like, don't do that to my kid ever again. I'm like, okay, well, if he gets another title shot, I promise I'll do it right this time and hit him in both nuts. But look, it was like for like, man. Obviously, I obviously can't condone what I did, and I do apologise to BTK for having to win that way. But he was going to win that way regardless. If I had a choked out and blacked out, he would have won, and I would have woke up in a mess. So I guess we're just as bad as each other. But yeah, look, I understand where people thought it was wrong, but I was just doing what I thought.
Is this where your issues with ICW referees specifically came into play?
100% where it started.
Because again, right, blindness aside, from where I was sitting, that looked like a legitimate hold. Obviously, the referee would have a much better vantage point than I would at the table. So, if you're saying that what you're saying is genuine, I can understand why your frustration with the officiating has come to the boiling point that it has.
Well, that was the thing. Like, I even told Rob Messenger in the next show, you almost cost me the last match because you were about to give away a rear naked choke, and he just blatantly was like, well, I didn't see it, and I've got to call what I see. Like, you were staring right at my throat. Like, if it was around the top of my head, sure, understandable. That's a legitimate hold. But he was around my throat for a rear naked choke, man. He was staring right at it. I don't know if I had to have my pants down anymore for him to be able to see what he was looking at, but there was definitely a rear naked choke there. So I thought, well, if you're going to do it and get away with it, I'm going to do something else that I know I'm definitely not going to get away with, but I'm going to do it while the ref's not looking, because it looks like I'm going to have to fight both the referee and the wrestler on this one. So I genuinely thought at one stage there, Rob just didn't want an interstater to come down and win the title belt. So I thought that he was just trying to help BTK win the title and keep it in-house. But obviously we had our disagreements, and he was making accusations and threats, and I put my hands on him, but I was severely frustrated. But then he got his back in the next show, and then I thought, okay, well, now we're square. But then he decided to go ahead and screw me over in the title belt match and give me a return to sender mid-match. And when I came to realizing that I'd lost the belt and the match, and it was all because of him, I knew that there was only one way to sort this, and it was to beat the living shit out of each other. And we did that.
I will say, honestly, like that, without blowing smoke, and, you know, this is only technically the third show that Nova's done commentary for, but the second one she's done live in person. That I almost said Last Man Standing. That I Quit match was one of my favourite matches that I have called on commentary. I genuinely did enjoy it quite a lot, and I even said to Rob after the fact, to his face, that I was shocked because I didn't know, like, coming out of retirement, he's been sitting at that desk for a while, and even though he's been in that ring as a referee, he hasn't competed in quite some time, and I was shocked that he managed to be as vicious as he was and be that Rob Messenger of old. And I even said it on commentary during the match that it's a testament to the point that, you know, whether people like Apex Anderson or not, but the point that you pushed him to, you brought that side out of him. So,
and you know what? I respect the fact that he came to the table. I kind of underestimated it because I did think, being retired for so long, that it was going to be just me slobber knocker, just going at him. But then I completely forget. It's a conversation we had earlier about being a referee and seeing everything firsthand. That's the one thing I forgot to account for, is the fact that he's seen me fight, so he knows what I'm about and he knows what I'm capable of. So he's seen a lot of my stuff coming, and he put me on my ass a couple of times there. And there was like that one part where I was sitting with him face to face in the middle of the ring, and he knew that I was going to lock up with him, so he got the first hand and pushed me over, and that set me off. And from then I was on my edge because I was like, well, shit, he knows what I'm about. And he was cutting me off at every corner because he knew where I was going to go to next and what my tended to move is when I have to get around an opponent. So he was cutting me off and he was outsmarting me at one stage. And at one stage I just had to switch off everything and just use him against himself and just wear him down with his energy and burn him down to that way he was weak at the knees. And then that's when I could capitalize. And after I finally wore him down, I realized I had to finish him the same way he finished my near almost chances of winning a title belt, and that was to put him into a choker hold, and I put him into the anarchy lock, and the rest is history.
What?
So my next question for you is, who is your ultimate dream opponent and what is your dream stipulation?
Oh, all right. So I've actually had my dream opponent in my books repertoire since I learned to actually start to wrestle, and it's Benny the Back Rower. I have followed this guy's career for ages, even through the broken neck, and then obviously to see him come back is absolutely astounding. I have always wanted to have my own steel cage match against Benny the Back Rower, and I think that would be one hell of a show.
I mean, cool. I don't know about an actual cage match, but Benny the Back Rower has made it clear that he's going to step back into the pit now that he's back. Could we see Apex Anderson step into that environment? We saw how dangerous he can be, you know, within the realms of a family-friendly hardcore match in that I Quit match. What about when the chains are off and you're locked in a literal cage with an animal? That would be something that, you know, suplex explicit wrestling. I could 100% see that potentially happening.
Timothy Wilkes, book it.
Yeah.
Suplex.
Book it, Monty. Book it.
Yeah, look, I would love to go up there and meet him firsthand and say, look, mate, I respect you, but I also would love to see what you're capable of against someone of my caliber and see how we go. But yeah, look, Benny the Back Rower was someone I enjoyed because it was his character is very close to what I was. It used to be a football player, just a great person all around and just a never give up attitude and the fact that I think we could go the distance for a very long time, and I think it'd be a very drawn match that would just I think we would rival each other in a lot of aspects, but I think it's going to come down to a very close call. I'm not going to say that I'd get up and win, but I'd say it would if it's going to go one way, it's going to go some way just. It's not going to be a complete ass kicking. It'll be a fight to the absolute end. So he's definitely a dream wrestler to match against. If you had asked me a couple of years ago when I started, I probably would have been looking at my dream match against Damien Slater over at EPW. But I know that Damien Slater is someone who was a higher caliber for a different style of wrestling. He is someone who very athletic, very quick, wants to finish the match like that. Whereas I know there are some guys over here on this side of the road, like Benny the Back Rower, even some of the guys like Gibson, Shaq, EVO, those guys that I've seen in the ring or been in the ring with, you know that they're the hard hitters, they're the brawlers, and that's the kind of matches I love. The match where it might go for 20 minutes, it might go for 30 minutes, but it's going to be one that's going to take every sort of inch of energy out of us. It's going to leave us wanting to draw any kind of form of breath. Like that I Quit match was, it was painstakingly brutal, but I loved every minute of it because I knew that I was fighting for an inch of everything and getting small steps backwards and forwards and coming up to literally grasping at the last straw to get the win. And that's my kind of matches. I love a good, just a really intense fight where I know I'm going to be in it for the long haul.
Oh, cool. Auction, next question then.
Yeah. So my next question is, if you could team with any Philadelphia Eagles player, who would it be and why?
Sean Barkley. I love that Sean Barkley guy. Goddamn, I tell you about that Sean Barkley. He don't get crazy out there with that Sean. Sean does other things out there that I haven't seen before in my life, but that damn Sean Barkley, that's my guy right there. 100%.
Why is that so accurate? Why is that so accurate?
Because I've watched that video clip way too many times. No, look, honestly, if I had a team with someone that I knew was of my caliber, it'd probably be Jordan Mailata, because power, strength, and everything in between, plus a great singing voice, something I don't have. But look, Saquon is just godlike, and that would just be the absolute cop-out answer, but a lot of people don't realise this, but when I played gridiron, I actually played defensive end. So I play the same position as Jordan Mailata, and I would love to tag team with someone who has done the exact same things I've done, except for made it to a Super Bowl, won a ring, and I haven't done any of that. So, yeah.
Perhaps we'll make it a six-man.
Yo.
You got two big guys, and then the Sean's just running circles around everyone else.
See.
Yeah, we beat the powerhouses, and then Sean comes in and does all the high spots.
Or like those, Survivor Series type, odd couple pairings.
It's a random ADHD thing, but literally, if Mailata went to WWE, I'd love him to tag team with fucking Bronson Reed. Could you imagine?
So just hear me out.
They're just like long lost brothers because they kind of look alike.
Well, that's just
Mailata goes heel and teams with Grayson Waller.
Well,
yeah.
I said Mailata as a heel teaming with Grayson Waller.
Yes.
Because Grayson Waller is a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan himself.
Yes.
And it's the power and speed combo.
Well, I mean, if you guys go back to WrestleMania 41, at May at Philly, and they had Kelsey and
the way Kelsey and Lane just cleared those fucking games, man. Especially Kelsey as a bigger dude. I'm like, man, fuck this guy.
Yeah, but
a dude that size should not be able to move that well.
No, but stranger things have happened. I loved it. I thought it was great. A little sign off to Philadelphia, but I think, definitely Jordan Mailata would be my tag team partner. I'd be able to it'd be like watching Enzo and Big Cass all over again. Like, I'd be the Mac, I'd mark behind the mouth, and Mailata just be standing behind me, just going, and he's 7 foot tall, and you can't teach that.
So next part of my question, it's kind of a two-part of that one, is on the flip side of that, if Whipplex were to face any team of two athletes, whether it be Philly Eagles or otherwise, who would it be?
So anybody in the world to verse as tag team.
Yeah.
In terms of just sports athlete.
Yeah, sports athlete in general. So it doesn't have to be Philly Eagles, but it's you could give me two answers. You could give me two Philly Eagles guys that you want to diverse Whipplex, but you could also give me some athletes as well that are kind of in your mind.
And cue Dallas Cowboys players here.
Just to beat the shit out of them. Fuck Dak Prescott.
I was going to say Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, but I know if I say that, my wife's going to kick down the door and beat the shit out of me. So
she re-listens to this and she's like, fuck.
Yeah, look, I reminded her about that Philadelphia ring that I wear. I was like, she goes, why do you wear this one all the time? And I said, you see, because it always reminds me of how much of a loser you are. And
shit. Shots fired.
Honestly, it's the coolest thing I could say, because it always gives me a free night's sleep in the spare bedroom. So, but look,
don't you be taking notes with your Ram shit either.
I plead the fifth. This is your question.
Look, if there was any two athletes that I would want to verse, surprisingly, it would be in the NRL. It would be Jerome Luai and Daly Cherry Evans.
Okay. It's an odd couple pairing, but I get it.
Yeah.
I hate their guts.
Makes sense.
So I would love to missile drop kick both of them. Like, I would go coast to coast on both their asses.
Not to body shame, but I reckon Daly Cherry Evans could take one hell of a pile driver. If you get what I'm saying, you get what I'm saying.
The only problem is with that one is you'd have to have a fourth top rope to get to a headshot. So you'd have to find a ring with 4 turnbuckles.
It'd be the same with Cleary with his chin, right?
Problem is Cleary could take a chair shot with that chin and still keep going. Like, it's... No, I think it's
and this is how we get cancelled. Anyway, continue.
So, I definitely think just because Daly Cherry Evans is somebody who consistently argues the point, he can't just move along. And Jerome Luai has always been someone who's just been pure arrogance. And I hate that about players who are just like people who are good. Like,
so Whipwrecks are 100% the baby faces in this situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
like
Cherry Evans for me. Cherry Evans for me just reminds me of a fucking seagull. Like, he plays for the friggin' Eagles, right? Like, seagulls anyway, or whatever the fuck they're called.
Yeah, Manly Seagulls.
Seagulls. So it's kind of like, I don't know why, but he just reminds me of a fucking, like, seagull as such, because he just keeps yapping and yapping and yapping. Like... Yeah,
he literally will find an excuse to find an excuse. And then when he's found the excuse, he'll cry about said excuse. And then you got Jerome Luai. Like, again... Credit where credit is due. Wrestling happens. People are good at their jobs. People aren't good at their jobs. Some people are good at wrestling. Some people aren't good at wrestling. You're never, ever going to hear the words come out of my mouth saying, I'm better than anybody else in this business, because we are just as good as each other. It just depends on how well we work and how well we can get to where we need to be. No one's better than anybody. That's damn given. But if you've got someone out there who's actively arrogant and costs an entire state a State of Origin trophy, but decides to sit under the goalpost and tell everybody, oh, you've got work tomorrow. Mate, you had work tonight and you failed to show up. Like, don't be acting like, you know, you're the best damn thing since sliced bread and we have to cop your loss on the chin because you couldn't get the job done. Like, don't tell me that you're the greatest in the world, but in the next sentence, oh, go back to your own day jobs. Like, me, you can't be throwing shade and then sitting there making everybody else eat theirs. Like, I would love to just spine buster that guy into the next ring, and then while he's laying there, take all 4 of his silly premiership rings and give him a left, right, freaking Logan Paul goodnight charming wrist, and then just, you know, just never see the front of that guy's face ever again. I don't know. It's just, I just think arrogance has got the worst of him, and now that he's gone to the Tigers, I think he's going to take a lot of humble pie. But then you've got Cherry Evans, who the guy's got more tears than the water that Alfred just dropped on Gold Coast and Brisbane. It's frustrating.
Jesus,
savage.
How do you follow that up, Nova? How do you follow that?
Next question. How do you follow that?
The floor is yours for the next question.
So my next question is a non-wrestling related question, even though half of these have kind of been on-ish.
It's the official non-wrestling question to end the chat before we go into the plugs and all the stuffs.
Who is your all-time favourite Philadelphia Eagles player, and who is your all-time favourite non-Eagles player?
All-time favourite Philadelphia Eagles player has to be by far shit, I can see him right now.
Barkley?
No. It would be AJ Brown.
Yeah, I can see that.
The fact that guy can catch balls with glue hands, like, is just, he's nuts. Just everything he's done for us, and the fact that he's still here despite all the rumours of him not getting along with Jalen, because obviously there's a new love relationship between him and Shay Sean. Like, AJ Brown has been there since thick of thieves, day dot, still doing what he does best and still amazing me every time he catches the ball. As soon as I see him downfield, I know something magical is going to happen. Favorite non-Eagle? Honestly, I've got a few. and some of them are really shit players, but they've just got a great personality, and I think they're a great person altogether. I can't remember his last name. Zach something used to play for the Jets as the QB, but then Rogers got him.
Yep, he was a real young dude. I can't think of his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but he was great. Jaden Daniels for Washington is fantastic. Yeah, look, honestly, there's a lot of people there that it's not about the talent, it's the things that they do off field for me that gets me over. I probably got to go with Zach from the Jets. Not a Jets fan, but you know, he still stuck around even after Rogers came in, and obviously Rogers was there for 45 seconds and tore his Achilles, and then Zach was back on the field. But Zach's now gone over to, I think, the Cleveland Browns.
He's at Dolphins.
He's at Dolphins?
Yes, Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson, thank you. I thought he got traded to the Browns, but no, that's even better.
Yeah,
Dolphins
I just looked him up. He's with Dolphins now, so I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, no, he's resilient, and he took everything that they threw at him, and he just learnt. And he tried with the team. He really tried to go. He had a really shit wide receivers. His defense let him down, but you know what? He didn't bitch. He didn't moan. He did his job, and he kept going. And kudos to him. So I would say my favorite non-Eagles player would be Zach Wilson.
It's pretty solid. Because, I knew of him a bit. I was like, he's this young dude. I couldn't think of his last name. But yeah, he's so mature too for his age. Like, if that was Mahomes, I know Mahomes is a great player, but if he got pushed aside like that, I feel like his ego would be like, nah, fam, and he'd play up like a little bitch. Like,
absolutely. I watched the School of Hard Knocks when Jets got picked for the Hard Knocks, and that was when Rogers came in, and they literally told Zach, they put him aside in office and said, we're going to bench you and let Rogers play. We just want you to learn off Rogers. And he goes, I think that's a great idea. He didn't cry about it. He didn't go, where's my game time? He's like, I'm getting paid to watch one of the greatest QBs of our generation go in and give us one more run after leaving Green Bay and showing us how it's done. And I'm going to learn off this. And there was so many things that he was starting to learn, like the no-look throw to the wide receiver. He was starting to do that, and he was picking up stuff. So Zach's got plenty of potential in him with years to come, as long as he doesn't do what other people have, like Pickett or Gardner Minshew or who's the other guy I was thinking of? They're literally just Russell Wilson. They just bounce from team to team to team. They don't really get a full-time spot and then become third-string QBs rather than first-string. Wentz now is a second-string QB for Washington. It's like, who would have picked that? And yeah, I don't like seeing good players end up becoming third string or fourth string. I'd love to see them just shine and show what they can do. So hopefully he shines for Miami and they don't let him go.
Yeah, for sure.
With that being said, before we get into all the plugs and everything else, something you did allude to earlier, obviously this is an audio-only podcast, but this is a video call. Something that you alluded to earlier, it's been sitting on your shoulder the entire time, which can't be doing that cracked rib any favours. You've got this shiny little championship on your shoulder, the Interstate Championship by Royal Label title, who we've had on this podcast. We've had ads from Royal Label. Cheap plug, go listen to that.
Absolutely, Chris. I'm going to hold it with one arm because my other rib is killing me, but yes.
So just elaborate on us, Apex. What is the point of this championship here? Why did you get it made? What does it represent? You kind of glossed over it before, but can we just kind of get into that before we get into the plugs and everything else? Because I feel like this, we're in the start of March here, or midway through March as we record this. This championship, I feel, is going to set the tone for the remainder of 2025 and beyond for Apex Anderson and whoever else decides to challenge for it.
Now, this belt, I just want to preface something straight away. This belt isn't me turning into, was it the Internet Championship or basically another Zack Ryder kind of style. This belt was created in the hopes to bring promotions together. So this isn't just for me to go around and say, I travel around and I'm a champion because I travel from state to state. That's not the case at all. I want to lose this belt. I want to lose this belt. The whole point of this title belt is to bring wrestlers from other promotions to my promotion, to help promote promotions, to help grow promotions, to help spread the word of promotions. ICW and ECW doesn't get enough recognition as it should. They are two of the greatest promotions that I've worked for. They are the nation's capital's promotions, which I think is big. The fact, I keep telling people, I was Australia's heavyweight champion. I was the nation's capital's heavyweight champion. That is iconic to say that. And I wanted to have a belt that was iconic enough that no matter where it stood, you knew what it stood for. And we took a photo shoot with it after the ICW show over the weekend when I picked up from Royal Label. And shout out to Adrian at Royal Label Titles. The belt is absolutely gorgeous. But I wanted an iconic belt that no matter where you saw it, you knew what it stood for. And the Interstate title is about bringing people from other promotions, whether it be Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Western Australia, Adelaide, Northern Territory, wherever you wrestle from, Tasmania, New Zealand, for Christ's sake. This opportunity it's a contract in the belt. You win the belt, then you have to go and defend that belt at the person's lost promotion. And they have an opportunity to win it back in front of their home crowd. If they don't win it back, that's it. That's game over. You have to go to the end of the line, but you're still in a category to win the belt. If you, say, for example, let's throw three names in there that you said before, Suplex. So say, for example, Suplex, MXW, and ICW, three wrestlers in a triple threat match for the Interstate title, and we have the match at MXW. Then if whoever loses that match gets a rematch, so we have a rematch triple threat at Slam. And it might just be the warm-up match for the show. But it gives more people more professional wrestling to watch. It gives a bigger card. It gives people another belt to kind of look at, even whether it just be a mid-card belt, because we don't have a mid-card belt yet. We've kind of just got heavyweight titles and tag team titles. We don't have really like an intercontinental or like a Australian title yet for just mid-card kind of belts. This is an opportunity for us to be able to have something that people can really enjoy, and it's very easy to symbolize. The fact that it's got the nation's flag in the center, and when we did the photos in front of the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Opera House, it was an iconic shoot, and it was basically like, can you get any more majestic than obviously having an Australian belt in front of the Australian icon for an Australian champion of one state or another. So the belt is to help bring promotions together and help grow this great business that we love and we want to be a part of more. It gives me an opportunity to go and see more promotions as well. If I lose the belt to someone in MXW and I want a rematch, this gives me an opportunity to go to MXW and win it back, and I get to meet the MXW crowd. This is an opportunity for me to be able to spread my wings, but also to spread people's wings that want to go to other promotions but are worried about what other promotions might say or not say. So if people are on board with the idea of the belt, we jump in, we have a match. Again, I'm happy to lose this belt. This is a belt that I want to lose because I want to go and fight for it back at another promotion. I want to promote the idea of going, this guy's from Suplex, this guy's from MXW, this guy's from MVW. These are the guys that are just going to get your name out. And like, for an example, I was holding the belt doing a photo shoot on Saturday, and two ladies pulled me up at the Opera House and said, "You're Apex Anderson." I damn near cried. Like, I'm already getting public engagement in the middle of an iconic area. Like, that's hard to get picked out of the crowd and go, "You're that wrestler guy," and they got a photo with me. And for the fact that happened, it was like, I'm doing the right thing. And I think this belt's going to do the right thing as well. In Sydney, of all places, I am a central Queensland wrestler who travels 3,000 round kilometres to go and wrestle, and of all places, the middle of Sydney Harbour Bridge, I get picked out for a photo. I nearly cried, and I called my wife nearly crying, saying, I think I'm famous for once. This belt will help elevate people who don't have title belt shots, people who have been the jobber, people who have been working their asses off and haven't had an opportunity yet because they haven't had that caliber. This is an opportunity for them to take a title belt and see what it feels like to be champion and be able to work on their craft as a champion before going to a bigger title. And who knows, this could be the small step to something else that we could do with this title belt. But all in all, this is a design belt to get people from every state invested into promotions, to help grow promotions and grow them through social media, grow through media, televised events, and through just being at the events now and just getting fans in the door to appreciate good quality wrestling.
Because, like, not to, fantasy book or anything, but something you just mentioned, like, with all those promotions specifically, ECW, as you said, Extreme Capital Wrestling specifically doesn't have a mid-card title yet. They've only just done the tag titles. Someone that was just on our show in the main event and actually won the Heavyweight Championship is going to be competing for the Heavyweight Championship again whenever we have the ECW 4. Doomslayer. Could you imagine, say, Doomslayer, if he was to take that Interstate Championship back to TCW in Tasmania, and you had to... Apex Anderson had to fly all the way from central Queensland over to Tasmania, and you had Apex versus Doomslayer at TCW for that title.
Yes.
Like, I 100% I get what you're saying, and in theory, maybe some promotions will, snark up at it because wrestling is going to be wrestling, but the handful of promotions that are absolutely willing to work together along, Victoria and New South Wales and stuff like that, I think nothing but good can come from this, to be honest.
For sure.
And one of the conversations you and I did have outside of the ring, you did mention this to me, and you even sent me the photo of the belt when it was done, because I need to obviously have it for graphics and stuff like that with the posters. But like when you told me what I genuinely, I was like, yeah, fuck Apex Anderson. This dude's just putting another belt on himself. But he told me the crux of this, and I was like, you know what? Backhanded compliment or not, I was kind of shocked when you told me the idea of it, and I was like, hey, this shit works. Let's go. Let's roll with this.
There's some awesome logic behind it. Like, it's great.
And, selfishly, the fact that it's called the Interstate Championship pops me for selfish reasons as well, because there's another Interstate Championship in wrestling that was my brainchild, and I'll never get the credit for, but that's neither here nor there. Wrestling.
But not only that, the whole idea I designed this belt around was the Cody Rhodes Intercontinental title. The white strap belt, the gold. What more iconic could you get with an Intercontinental title than white strap? And I haven't seen many decent white strap belts in a while, and Adrian really just went above and beyond to build this belt, and I every time I look at it, I'm proud to hold it. So, yes.
See, this is where I wish we had video. Sorry to cut off. Like, this is where I wish we had video, because you're kind of like zooming it in on the camera now, and like the lights like reflecting off it and shit, and my ADHD ass is just like shiny.
I'm gonna have to go for that.
So
bring it out, Steve Rawlinson.
No, that's how Nova Lee makes her debut. Fucking Nova Lee versus Apex Anderson.
100%. I'm down for an intergender match. I will do whatever. If it means that we're going to have a quality match, I'm down for it. And if I lose this to you, Miss Nova Lee, I'm down. It just means that it's an opportunity for somebody else to carry the mantle.
We did just see at ECW a week and a half ago, as we record this, the She-Wolf did just defeat Chris Stevens, C-Factor, so...
That was a very good match, too.
Never say never.
Well, I literally said to her, I was like, I'll get fit enough and I'll start wrestling, and she's like, fucking me or you are first. And I was like, oh, shit!
She-Wolf versus Nova Lee, Jesus fucking Christ, for the Interstate Championship. There's fantasy book and everything here on Recording Conversation. But with that being said, Apex, where can we find you on social media, your upcoming events, merch, etc., etc.? Hit me with all your... This is your time to shine for the next 5 or so minutes, for however you want to plug shit.
Beautiful. Look, guys, you can always follow me on YouTube. Just follow my name, Apex Anderson. You'll find my matches on there. You'll find older matches from other promotions on there, but you'll find the majority of my new matches between ICW and ECW on my own personal page. You can always follow me on Instagram. It is Apex_Anderson. Please feel free to request it. It is a private account. There are a lot of trolls out in Australia who love to say nasty things. So if you're a fan of wrestling and you want to follow me, by all means, I promise I'll accept, and I try to follow back as many people as I can. We are big news as well. We're up to about 4,500 followers on my Instagram page at point of recording, I believe. And we're almost at 500 followers on Facebook. So big numbers, which is very exciting. But if you want to follow me on Facebook, just Apex Anderson on Facebook as well. I do have an Instagram TikTok account, which is, again, Apex_Anderson. I do a couple of lives every now and then when I'm doing training sessions or stuff like that, and we talk about wrestling, or we'll review a match or a show or something like that live. I haven't posted there in a while, but I'm going to get back into it now that I have a bit more free time. my new job promotion allows me to step away from more of the important stuff and focus on the good stuff of my family and soon-to-be baby. So I can now focus on the good things of enjoying wrestling a bit more through TikTok and stuff like that. So if you guys want to follow me through Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, I did have Twitter. I don't really use it. I kind of just use it to stalk other people who say bad things about me because wrestling's wrestling. But yeah, feel free to follow me Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok, all Apex Anderson. Not hard to find. I have a very big lump on my head that everybody will see in all profile pictures.
I just remember this past weekend, every time someone pointed it out, and you're just like, motherfucker!
I think my favourite part of this weekend was having Falco walk past me. Hey man, good to meet you. We'll catch up in the future. I was like, yeah man, thanks very much for that. I really appreciate your time. And hey, thanks for not pointing out the lump on my head like every other fucking person at the show did.
And then you're like, Nova, and I was like, oh. I was like, so the lump's still there, and you're like, fuck's sake.
Every time I have to keep telling everybody that it's an aneurysm that I get when people ask about it and it pulsates the more people ask.
It gets bigger every time someone mentions it.
For what it's worth.
That's why I'm starting to wear the bandana across my head, so that way people stop staring at it and they can just stare at a bandana instead.
For what it's worth, I didn't see it. I am also legally blind, but I still didn't see it.
That's fine. I appreciate you, and I'll take that as a compliment. I'll take that as you didn't see it.
And where can we find your merch, Apex? I know you said you have a Redbubble store, I think.
Yes, Redbubble, just Apex Anderson on Redbubble, you'll find all my merch. I've got all my old merch, which is currently 30% off all my old merch, so including my olden Queensland Wrestling days. You can find all that merch there. It's currently on sale for $15. I don't make any profit for any of my merchandise, and I want to preface that a lot. I don't make money from anything. I do this because of the pure love of the business. I don't take money from bookers. I don't take money from merchandise. All my money is currently going to the Emma Butler Tongue Cancer Memorial. So any merchandise money that I do make goes straight towards charity. Again, this isn't for me to make money off. This is for me to do and love. This isn't for me to reap the benefits of profit for something that I'm not at the high caliber that I know I can be yet. And if there's a day that I actually do get paid for wrestling, then I know that I'm still going to give back because I only need enough to get by and do what I love. Because if you do work, what does it say? If you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. So head to Redbubble, look for Apex Anderson. My new merch is coming out. My special edition Kelly Green Eagles Apex jersey will be there shortly. I've got hoodies, socks, bags, everything. I'll also be doing on the Redbubble page a special link that will link you to a special code. That special code is then going to go towards replica mini belts of the Interstate title, which will be on sale as soon as we can talk to Royal Label Titles about doing replicas and getting them sold at the shows. But again, anything that I make is going to Emma Butler's Tongue Cancer Memorial, and I'm looking forward to that match, that show in Cowra in November. Definitely cannot wait to be there and meet High Octane in person and thank him for opening my eyes to this wonderful cause. And I will be doing some special edition shirts coming up to the Cowra show as well that will have the tongue cancer ribbon on it, all proceeds going to the show as well. So feel free to check out my merch there. I do have a shirt that says "We'll Wrestle for Tacos," so if you feel like donating to me, please donate me GYG voucher dollars. That will definitely help me feed me tacos on my journeys and drives to Canberra. But there is a lot of cool, funny merch there. I do drop a new merch shirt every month, and they're gimmick shirts. So if I do see you out in the crowd, please let me know. And if you do buy one of my merch shirts, I promise to you that every time I come out to a show, I have an extra merchandise shirt that I have, and normally a large or extra large. I throw it out to the crowd every show. If I see you with one of my cool shirts, I promise I will spot you one of my own merchandise shirts signed by myself as well.
Hell yeah. Obviously, we've talked at length about the Emma Butler Memorial Show here on Corner Conversation. I dare say we will again once it starts to get a bit closer. I don't need to sit here and rant about that and get all up in my feelings tonight. But no, I appreciate that, and I'm very looking forward to that show as well. But what shows do you have upcoming other than that in November? Obviously, I'm assuming we're going to see you at Tag Warfare and possibly see yourself and Benny as Whiplex in the Tag Warfare tournament. I mean, would that be a bold assumption to make, or is that still pending?
Look, that's I'm going to say yes to every possible match I can definitely get to. There's only 2 shows I've missed, and I apologise to the suplex. I missed both Newcastle shows because the first one was gastro, the second one they shipped my wrestling gear to Melbourne, and I had to get Qantas pajamas to wait the night and couldn't get to the show to even make it. So there's only 2 shows I've ever missed. I never want to miss another show ever again. I've got the 7th of June coming up at ICW. I believe there's another ECW show coming up in July that I'll be there for. The July one's a little bit skeptical. My firstborn child is on its way and due for delivery around about July. So if I can't put him into a headlock and say get back up there and just wait 1 more month, I probably will try to be at the ECW show. But
it's all still pending, but yeah.
Yeah, date's still pending and also Bub's still pending, but I'm in for every show for the rest of the year. So every ICW show you'll see me. The Cowra show I'll be there for. We've got a lot of exciting things on the horizon. If any other promotion is needing someone of caliber with 2 thumbs and a great attitude, this guy, feel free to reach out. Would love to try and expand my horizon a bit more to Melbourne or even back up the coast towards Sydney, Newcastle area, wherever. Even other promotions in different states. You've heard my crazy story about me driving 3,000 Ks. You'll be surprised where I'll drive. So if you are interested in booking, by all means, and that's not me trying to plug myself, that's just saying, like, if anybody's got anything for me, I'll put my hand up and say I'll go. So by all means, reach out. But for me, I've got a lot of ICW shows coming up this year, hoping to get a redemption shot at my Australian title, or even after seeing that really nice heavyweight title belt, that wouldn't be a bad idea to try and see if we can get my hands on. But also, too, I really want to go after those tag titles for Whiplex and see if we can start building some sort of form of a Grand Slam title. I know we've got tag team belts in ICW, so that's more of a pipe dream goal for me that I'd love to achieve, to have a first show Grand Slam champion, which would be great, because that would sidebar for a second. Congratulations to Tank for becoming Grand Slam champion, I believe, this weekend after finally getting the one
championship that's eluded him for 12 or 13 years now.
Yeah.
He won it literally the day after his birthday too. So congratulations to him on it.
Yeah, congratulations, Tank, on Grand Slam. But I think that's the goal I've always wanted to be, as I was always wanted to be a Grand Slam champion. So I would love to tick that off the box and hopefully get a tag team title belt or a heavyweight title belt again this year and see how we go.
I will just say, though, just to wrap this up, if you can drive 3,000 kilometres through a cyclone to make a show, I think people should just hit you up. I mean, you say you don't want to plug yourself. That's the whole point of doing these podcasts and doing the socials and all that, is that if you'll drive through a cyclone, imagine what you'll do when there's not a cyclone and the people down the coast can hit you up and maybe you don't have to drive as far, Just hit him up.
Yeah. Absolutely. Feel free to reach out and I'll be there.
Especially if you go to the socials and have a look at that Interstate Championship, and if you want that featured on your show. And why wouldn't you? Because it's fucking gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. I do love this belt a lot.
# belt porn.
That's it.
But also, I was just saying, thank you for coming on, but also, fuck Apex Anderson.
But also, go Birds!
No. Thank you.
Yeah, we were getting so close too.
Thank you.
That's why I changed the subject, because we don't need any more beef. Jesus Christ.
Thank you for coming on.
No, man, I appreciate you guys having me. I'm not going to say fuck Crossfire because you are a solid guy. Every time I listen back to the commentary of my matches, you do feed my ego for like 30 seconds. The only time you've ever brought my ego down was when the random opponent of Rob Messenger was my referee, and you're like, eat shit, Apex, mwah, mwah, mwah. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, look, I kind of feel bad now because I pulled some strings to get that involved, and then Rob just did what Rob does and took it way too far. But hey, we live and learn.
That was bad. That entire show was in your favour because it was a rogue wrestler and Rob as the referee, and you were in your element, and I get that. I understand. Look, honestly, it's been a pleasure talking to you at a neutral level tonight, and I appreciate you being here, Miss Novalee. I admire you for your patience with this man, but I also admire you for your love of the same thing. Yeah, look, I'm married, man. I know. I understand. Like I said, I told my wife how shit the Cowboys were, and it's a nice, easy sleep in the spare bedroom. So I say this, and I've already had 2 eyes poked through the door twice tonight because they've probably heard Dallas Cowboys and waiting to jump me after the show to say, you fucking tool.
Maybe
but also
Mrs. Apex is going to be the first official holder of that championship.
Yes!
Yeah,
we need someone to film it.
Word for word verbatim, Mrs. Apex has already called me a fucking mark for having this belt. So the fact that she knows that terminology, it's like, I'm proud of you. I love you. Fuck you, Mrs. Apex.
That is amazing.
But no, I appreciate you guys just giving me a chance to be on the potty. I've wanted to be on for a very long time. Obviously, I just wanted to, pick the right time to come on, and obviously, I think we've started to just really settle each other down a bit, and obviously have a good conversation. So I appreciate you guys having me on here, and I look forward to what the future holds between the three of us.
I genuinely, I look forward to seeing what Whiplex does at Tag Warfare, because you guys are really starting to. Look, antics aside, you'd be really coming into your own, and I have no doubt it's going to be a very entertaining night. So,
yeah, and also thanks for telling me at the last minute that last match was a no DQ, and having to hit myself in the fry pan head because what else was I going to do with the pan?
I mean,
I held the pan, and I was like, well, I feel like I've got to hit someone over the head, and then all I hear in the background is, these guys realize it's completely legal to have a weapon. I'm like, well, shit, I'm just going to knock myself out there. Fucking hit myself in the head and go down, and the ref, I don't know, deal with it. But no, you've always called it down the middle. You haven't been unbiased towards commentary. You've just said how you feel, and I appreciate that. I appreciate someone with honesty, so good on you for that.
I appreciate you, mate. Thank you very much.
It's good having you on.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me, and all the best. Hopefully see you all in the future with more matches and more exciting stories to go.
Hell yeah.
Cheers, mate.
And also, too, just one more thing. EAGLES.
Eagles!
I had to.
Catch ya.
Catch you guys. Thanks very much.
Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Apex Anderson! Mister! Is that gimmick infringement?
I don't know, maybe.
I demand Apex Anderson versus Ken Anderson in a ladder match, custody of a name on the pole match, or some I don't know. Some sort of...
For that new nice shiny title.
I had a joke there and I just lost it.
The nice new shiny title.
Yes,
He's in a state, right?
I mean, he's done a few promotions in Melbourne and Sydney, so I'm sure if he was in one of those almost said one of those countries, in one of those states already. So hey, how about this, right? MXW, who just had Brian Kendrick, bring over Mr. Anderson, right? And then if he travels from Victoria to ACT, he has then travelled interstate.
This is true.
And then he can compete for the Interstate Championship on behalf of Victoria. Is that how that works?
I could see that happening.
I don't know. I'm sure in wrestling speak we can make that work within the realm of kayfabe, brother. I really enjoyed this conversation, and obviously I don't want to sit here and fuck around because there is a lot we've got to cover. I don't want this to be a super long episode. Obviously, like the Ryan rated our superstar. We had two different fucking brain thoughts there. How good's ADHD? Obviously, we had the Ryan Jacobs interview, which was 2.5 hours, and I didn't want to cut any of it. And then E10's episode last week was like just shy of an hour, and now we're back here and it's over 2 hours. I'm sorry.
It's because you put Birds fans with Bird fans, and then we're just going to talk for fucking hours. So
tweet. But no, follow Apex at all of the links that will be provided. There's a lot. There was, I think you said there was a TikTok, there's an X, there's a Facebook, there's an Instagram, the YouTube and the Red Bubbles and all the fucking stuff and the things that are there. Go check him out. Go suss him out, because all jokes aside, all the flack that I've given him both on commentary and here on this show, he is a phenomenal wrestler, and I will fight anyone on that. I genuinely will.
You'll fight Hammer and Tong even?
I'm being serious right now. Like, in terms of what he does between those ropes, despite the fact that, hey, maybe I don't agree with the tricks that he makes every now and then. I just genuinely think he's a super talented dude, and I think more people in this country need to see what he can do, and it's a real shame that life got in the way on those two Suplex bookings that he was meant to have, because he was advertised for them publicly by Suplex themselves as well, and unfortunately card is subject to change. But I'd like to see this guy get booked more. I'm glad that Extreme Capital Wrestling has picked him up as well. He's got two different places to wrestle in within the realm of the ACT and obviously the surrounding areas of New South Wales, obviously Queensland. But I said Queensland. Queanbeyan, rather. What are words by the shirt? Queanbeyan might as well just be the fucking ACT. It's right on the border. The Tigers Club's right around the corner from the freaking airport. Like, Oh, and the train station and everything else. So for all intents and purposes, it might as well be ACT. But no, I really want to see Apex get out and about to other promotions, and especially, again, this is an audio-only podcast, but go to those socials that we were going to have in the links below and that you heard Apex just talk about. Check out the photo, and even go to Royal Labels on the close-up photos that Ads posted of this championship, because
solid.
Sweet mother of fuck, it is beautiful. I think Ads, I know I've seen the photo that Ads took. I don't know if it's actually on his socials yet, but it will be eventually anyway. But up close, it is a beautiful title. Apex took some photos around Sydney Harbour with the championship when he picked it up.
Oh yeah, it's on there.
It is on Royal Labels.
Yes,
yep.
I just
go suss that out. It's a beautiful championship, and I want it and I needs it, but I can't because I'm not medically cleared. But that's okay. But check out my link tree. Check out Nova's link tree. Obviously, both of them contain our personal Instagrams as well as all of the podcast stuff. My Crossfire page is there as well. Obviously, at Crossfire_graphics. I'm a one-eyed graphic designer. Sooner than later, I'm going to be just an amateur graphic designer, and hopefully my work will continue to get better, because I feel like my work's come a long way. Not to pat myself on the back, but I'm pretty proud of what I've pumped out. I've actually pumped out a couple of 8x10s for Apex Anderson that, he gave me monies for, and we had a professional transaction, and quite proud of what I pumped out with those, in all honesty. But yeah, that's all there. And obviously, Apex said that he's like, what did he say? About 4,500 followers on Instagram, and he's at 500 followers on Facebook. We are trying to get the Facebook page, the Courting Conversation Facebook page, to 500 followers, so we can do our giveaway of the Edge signed plaque and the SmackDown ring skirt. So please go like that link. And obviously, also in that links, Nova, there's the GoFundMe, which we're not going to beg, but it's there. There's the Amazon wish list, and of course, there is the Patreon, where as low as Nova,
$5 reduce,
you get early access. In most cases, it will be at least 2 days, but in this case here, in the last couple of weeks, it'll be a few days. It'll be like 4 to 5 days, depending on if we get them in the can. We've got another one lined up this Sunday, the day that this episode drops. We won't say who in case, but
I've got my sights on someone else when we get back from Sydney. If it all goes through, the episode we're recording on Sunday will literally be up on Patreon a week in advance. Yes.
So for $5, I feel like our episodes are worth it. And then obviously for $10, the second tier, $10 Australian, $6 US. The direct link to this is always in the description as well, if you want to just that. But my children's book, I will break a bit of kayfabe here and say that Apex himself has checked out that book. He read it to his niece, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. And that is the shit that I like to hear. I remember him actually messaging me, which was weird because, it's Apex Anderson. He was like, man, are you actually allergic to horses? And I was like, fuck, he actually read the book. There we go. But no, go check that out. It's all there. Pro Wrestling Tees, it's all there as well. We do still have Radiation Kick shirts on hand here. Speaking of the Emma Butler Memorial charity that Apex was mentioning, they're $30 each. You can pre-order them for shows that I'm going to be at for pickup, or $10 for postage for 1 or 2 shirts, and obviously 3 to 4 shirts is $15, and
there's
obviously
limited sizing left as well.
So we're completely sold out of the 2XL, but we still have medium, large, and extra large. Extra large is the most stock size that I got, but they are still very, very, very lenient sizes as well. Like I wear an XL. Miss Novalee, you fit your assets, your lady assets into an XL very comfortably. Mama Crossfire got a 2XL, and it actually swims on her. So the sizing is really well done. So yeah, if you're a little bit smaller, the smaller size is medium. But hey, if you're a child or whatever, you'll obviously grow into it. But no, hit us up. We've got a nice little chunk of shirts and everything else. But yeah, it's all there. Did you want to repeat the song and match of the week, Nova? And then I'll plug the actual upcoming events. And I'll get out of here because y'all are probably sick of hearing my fucking voice.
So your song of the week for episode 157 was Go Birds by Holden Barter, the acoustic version specifically.
And remember that when I add it to our playlist now.
Yes, because it's like I still like both the versions, but the acoustic's like it hits different. It's a banger. Anyway, DX versus the McMahons is the match of the week at SummerSlam at 2006. I just butchered that a little bit, but anyway.
How the fuck is that 19 years ago in August? Where is my life going and what am I doing?
back in 1992.
So, look, for context here, right, and we've had him on the podcast, like, just before he turned 18. That was the year the T-Dog was born.
Yeah, it's wild to think about.
My youngest brother, who is 12 years younger than me.
My brother!
My brother! Fucking love what Ryan Nemeth's doing right now.
Yes.
My brother, the month before the 19th anniversary of this show, will be 19 years old, and I don't know how to feel about that. I'm having a moment right now. But no, with that being said, check all the links. MXW Break Stuff, Saturday, April 5th. If you click the link to that, there's also a show on Sunday the 6th as well. I didn't put the link for that because if you click on these, the link to both of them are in the same area, so you can find them if you just navigate around. But yeah, they're doing a double header at the sets in Mildura for MXW, Saturday the 6th, Sunday the 7th. Oh, sorry, Saturday the 5th, Sunday the 6th. What are words? What is math? It's written right in front of me and I'm still doing it wrong. But that is there. Also MXW in Lara, Let 'em Cook on May 3rd. And then we have on Saturday, July the 7th, ICW Tag Warfare at the Canberra PCYC. All tickets will just be $10. All tickets, $10. Tickets available at the door. Online tickets pending. I will still have the little blurb in the description just to remind y'all to keep an eye out. But mark your calendars. It's going to be awesome. It's been a couple of years. I could be wrong here, but the last Tag Warfare we had, is that the same Tag Warfare where I kicked Tank in his ding-ding?
I think so, from memory.
Did we do it in 20? Did we do it in? I don't think we've done it since like COVID times.
I don't think we have. No.
Interesting. So interesting. Your boy main evented the last one. Stroke my ego a little bit right there. Yeah, fuck. Tag Warfare's coming. I always love Tag Warfare because it's a tournament. You know, you can have multiple champions on one night. I guess it's almost interim champions, similar to the Capital Carnage match. But whoever wins this championship has to go through at least 3 matches because there's qualifying matches and blah blah blah. So
yeah,
it's gonna be a fun time. Always love that. But yeah, keep an eye out. And then we do have a show back at Belconnen Community Theatre on August 30th. I haven't written it down because the show is the name of the show is pending. They did put a Facebook event up, but they're thinking about changing the name of the show before they release the poster and tickets and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the next one is July 7th, Canberra PCYC, $10 tickets. All tickets only $10. I cannot stress that enough. And then obviously at the end of the year, if we fast forward a little bit, Nova, we go all the way back and we have. Well, not all the way back, all the way forward, rather. But we go back to what Apex was talking about, the Emma Butler Memorial Show. Obviously, that's what the Radiation Kicks shirts are raising money for as well, for the Emma Butler Tongue Cancer Charity. Great cause, great wrestling. Going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to going back to that noodle place, to be honest with you, that we went to last time, next to where we stay. Hopefully we'll actually get to go for a swim this time, but that's neither here nor there. But is there anything else we need to plug? I think I've got everything plugged. My notes are jumbled all over the place. I don't know what's going on right now, but my notes tonight are just... This whole conversation, when we started with Apex, I almost broke my coffee cup over my laptop because I'm blind before we went live on air. And then now my notes are just all smudged and stuff, which I don't understand. It's in writing on my phone, but somehow it's still as if I've written it, and it's just there's shit where it shouldn't be, and it's all out of place. And I try my best to be professional, but sometimes with my eyesight, it just it happens. Is there anything you'd like to add to this conversation, Nova, before we wrap this up?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we pretty much covered everything.
I am the essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
And you guys were just caught
in conversation. Shakalaka laka. Titty sprinkles.
Sprinkles.
Go birds!